After 4 hours, everything was finally arranged properly. Yun Chuzhou sat in the meeting tent and summoned the leaders of her 9 battalions. Of course, the deputy alliance leader of Ling Datu, Feng Ji, and Lin Chuan, and Shangguan Hao were also present. Yun Chuzhou first said some polite words, such as welcoming in Lin Chuan and Shangguan Hao to help, so as to introduce them to each other. Then, Yun Chuzhou changed the topic. The windbreak is the easiest to attack and the hardest to defend, so we must be vigilant. If any of your battalions make a mistake while on duty, don't blame me for turning hostile. Of course, if any of your battalions or anyone performs well, I won't mistreat them. We, the Loose Cultivator Alliance, will definitely make sure that the rewards and punishments are clear. Once I find out about those bad apples that are just to make up the numbers, I won't let them off easily. The leaders of the 9 battalions repeatedly agreed, and were extremely obedient. Yun Chuzhou nodded her head in satisfaction, and then instructed them to take note of some things before she let them leave first. Lin Chuan and Shangguan Hao watched from the side, and could not help but click their tongues in amazement. This Ling Xiaojiu really had the skills to command her subordinates to be so obedient. How did she do it? Just as the two of them were feeling puzzled, they heard Yun Chuzhou say, "Young heroes, you arrived earlier than us. Have you ever fought head-on with the Yen clan?" Lin Chuan straightened his back, he said confidently, "Of course. However, those bastards of the Yen clan were cowardly and sneaky. They probably saw us sending more troops and retreated almost immediately. They couldn't get enough of us." Yun Chuzhou ignored him and turned to ask Shangguan Hao, "Young hero Shangguan, what do you think of the Yen clan?" Lin Chuan, what did this little Ling Jiu mean? Was he blatantly ignoring him? Had he offended her before? Shangguan Hao was obviously more reliable than Lin Chuan. He pondered for a moment and said, "Although we managed to stop the Yen clan's attack in the previous confrontation, we paid a heavy price. From this, it can be seen that the Yen clan's current dodging and evading are definitely not normal. They must be plotting something. The windbreak is the weakest point of our defense line. They are likely to use the windbreak as a breakthrough point. We must be fully prepared." Yun Chuzhou curled the corners of her lips. What young hero Shangguan said makes sense. However, I believe that the Yen clan will not use the windbreak as a breakthrough point. On the contrary, they are likely to use the yellow mud mound as a breakthrough point. This is called doing the opposite, just to catch us off guard. Lin Chuan could not hold it in any longer and could not help but laugh out loud. Are you joking? The yellow mud mound is easy to defend but hard to attack. The Yen clan will only attack from the yellow mud mound if they are stupid. The Yen clan has been testing us a few times recently. It is obvious that they have more troops at the windbreak. Isn't this obvious? Yun Chuzhou glanced at Lin Chuan as if she was looking at an idiot. Do you know how we lost the last time? We were just taking it for granted. The Yen clan was naturally cunning. If they really wanted to attack from the windbreak, they wouldn't have specially arranged more troops at the windbreak. They were just pretending to be lost. Lin Chuan inexplicably felt that this feeling of being attacked until he was about to vomit blood was very familiar. Did the little girl called Little Jiu like to attack him? Shangguan Hao felt that what Yun Chuzhou said made some sense. He said in a deep voice, "Alliance Master Lang, in that case, you'd better report this idea to Alliance Master Yen as soon as possible." The corner of Yun Chuzhiou's mouth curled up. Even if I do, he might not agree with my idea. I have a better idea. A better idea? What idea? Shangguan Hao asked in confusion. There are 9 battalions in our Loose Cultivator Alliance. I plan to leave 5 battalions to guard the windbreak, and the other 4 battalions to lie in ambush near the yellow mud mound. Once the nightmare race attacks from the yellow mud mound, we can catch them off guard and torture them to death. Yun Chuzhiou's eyes flashed with coldness. Although she did not know any of the people who had self-detonated before, the elders of the primordial chaos sect and the murderous sect were her fellow disciples. Therefore, the overprotective ones now hated the sinister and cunning nightmare race to death. Whether it was Shangguan Hao, Anlin Chuan, Leng Kuei, or Feng Ji, they all thought that Yun Chuzhou had gone mad. Only 5 battalions were left to guard the windbreak. 1 battalion had 400 people, while 5 battalions only had 2,000. Once the nightmare race attacked, they wouldn't be able to defend it. Even Mountain Master Zhao had brought nearly 3,000 people to guard this place, let alone the Alliance army. Their spiritual power was much higher than the cultivators of the Alliance. You're making trouble. You're talking nonsense. I don't agree. Leng Kuei's opinion of Yun Chuzhou had already improved. Now that he heard it, he immediately felt that Yun Chuzhou was here to cause trouble. Vice President Leng Datu, please pay attention to your attitude. You need to calm down, He Xinjiu said with a hidden meaning. Leng Kuei was so angry that he was twitching. Of course, he knew that Yun Chuzhou was threatening him. If he said more, she would expose his identity. He was different from Yun Chuzhou, who was a bad person. He wanted face. Therefore, Leng Kuei could only sit by the side in anger and keep quiet. Feng Ji saw the situation. He advised earnestly, Alliance Chief, although the Vice Alliance Chief's attitude isn't very good, his worries are correct. If you only leave 5 battalions to guard the windbreak, if your guess is wrong and the Nightmare Clan rushes through the windbreak, the consequences will be unimaginable. Anlin Chuan felt that he had finally stood on the moral high ground and echoed, that's right, if the windbreak is lost, you will be a sinner of the immortal Yuan continent. You should give up this idea as soon as possible. Sister Leng, although you have some skills in governing your military appearance, you are still lacking in strategic skills. You'd better give up. I think Vice President Leng Datu is much stronger than you. Men. He Xinjiu suddenly shouted. The 8 men on duty outside the meeting tent immediately walked in. President. Drag this Anlin Chuan away. He has offended his superiors and disrespected his superiors. He will be punished with 10 strokes of the military rod. After he is beaten, bring him here for me, Yun Chuzhou said with a gloomy face. Anlin Chuan had been successful since he was young. When had he ever received such treatment? He immediately jumped to his feet and refused to accept it. Leng Xiaojiu, what right do you have to punish me? I am not a member of your unaffiliated cultivator alliance. Yun Chuzhou sneered, although you are not a member of our unaffiliated cultivator alliance, Alliance Master Yen has assigned you to me, so you are my subordinate. You openly questioned my ability and tried to incite Deputy Alliance Master Leng Datu to usurp the throne. What are your intentions? According to your actions, even if you were to be beaten to death, it would be a light punishment. Now that I've only beaten you 10 times, it's already giving face to the primordial chaos sect. What are you guys still standing there for? Hurry up and drag him down. Anlin Chuan was so angry that he was jumping up and down. Just as he was about to resist, the 8 people from the unaffiliated Cultivators Alliance suddenly stepped forward and restrained him. These 8 people were carefully selected by Yun Chuzhou. They all had high spiritual power and were obedient. Let alone having them subdue Anlin Chuan, even if they were to subdue Alliance Master Yen, they might still do it. Gag his mouth so that I don't get upset when I hear him shouting. Yun Chuzhou said in disgust. One of his men immediately gagged Anlin Chuan's mouth and dragged him down. Shangguan Hao was shocked. When he reacted, Anlin Chuan, the unlucky boy, had been dragged out. He was about to speak when he heard Yun Chuzhou sigh, young hero Shangguan, I had no choice. Young hero and has a straightforward personality, but he is really outspoken. This is a battlefield, and I have thousands of soldiers under me. If I don't punish him, where will my authority be? I have tolerated him a few times before, but not only is he unrepentant, he has become even worse. His crimes are unforgivable. Young hero Shangguan, you're a sensible person. I hope you can understand my painstaking efforts. The reason why Yun Chuzhou found an excuse to punish An Linchuan was, firstly, to protect her reputation as the leader of the unaffiliated Cultivator Alliance. Secondly, An Linchuan's outspoken personality was bound to cause trouble sooner or later. It would be good to teach him a lesson so that he would learn his lesson. Shangguan Hao was speechless by Yun Chuzhou's words. Perhaps he and An Linchuan felt that this Ling Xiaojiu was very similar to junior sister Xiaojiu, so he acted arrogantly. Indeed, although they were the true disciples of the Hunyuan sect, they were only members of the loose Cultivator Alliance on the front line. An Linchuan had no reason or position to say what he had just said. The 10 army batons were indeed too light. Thinking of this, Shangguan Hao swallowed his plea. Leng Kuei, who was at the side, knew that Yun Chuzhou was doing this to protect her prestige as the alliance leader. However, he still secretly thought that this An Linchuan had not offended this bad news bag before, right? This troublemaker wouldn't be using his official position to seek personal revenge, right? After a short while, An Linchuan was brought back. Because he was a cultivator, the 10 army batons were actually nothing. It was like scratching an itch. However, this guy was proud and arrogant. After being beaten up by the 10 army batons in front of everyone, one could imagine how much he hated Yun Chuzhou. His eyes were about to spit fire. However, his spiritual power was restrained, so it couldn't pose any threat to Yun Chuzhou. Yun Chuzhou sneered, "You hate me very much." An Linchuan snorted, "HMPH. There was nothing to say that I was now under the control of others. However, I don't think I was wrong. Your decision just now was an extremely stupid mistake. I said those words for the safety of the immortal Yuan continent. I wasn't wrong." Yun Chuzhou laughed softly, "You are not wrong. Then if I run to your primordial chaos sect and tell Master Bailey that he is not worthy to be the sect leader of the primordial chaos sect, I might as well give the position of sect leader to Mountain Master Zhua. What do you think will happen to me?" An Linchuan's face was flushed red from the rebuke. He tried to defend himself. "Even if what I said at the end is my fault, what about the first part? Your decision will put the entire Alliance army in a passive position. You made a wrong decision, yet you don't allow others to express their opinions." Yun Chuzhou glanced at him. "I will give you a chance to prove that you are wrong. Go to the horseshoe colt that is 10 miles away from the windbreak and take a look. If there is no team from the Alliance army there to reinforce and defend our windbreak, I will give the position of the Alliance Master to the Deputy Alliance Master of Lengdatu." Leng Kuei could not care less about the outdated name and said in surprise, "Are you saying that Alliance Master Yen has deployed troops at the Horseshoe Colt? Just to prevent us from not being able to defend the windbreak?" Yun Chuzhou laughed self-deprecatingly. "Our unaffiliated Cultivator Alliance is just a motley crew. How can the Alliance trust us with such an important pass like the Wind Gap? There will definitely be a reinforcement team at the Horseshoe Colt, and the number will not be less than 2,000 people." An Linchuan straightened his neck and said indignantly, "You are trying to measure the heart of a gentleman with a villain's heart. Since Alliance Master Yen asked your freelance martial artist alliance to guard this place, why would he still send someone else to guard Horseshoe Colt? HMPH, I don't believe it. This is not the behavior of a villain, but just in case. If I were Alliance Master Yen, I would also do the same. After all, the windbreak is such an important juncture, so it's natural to be cautious. Since you don't believe me, then go and take a look now." Yun Chuzhou said nonchalantly. "Let's take a look. If there are no troops stationed at Horseshoe Colt, are you really going to give the position of Alliance Master to Vice Alliance Master Leng?" An Linchuan felt that what Leng Xiaojiu said was simply nonsense. Alliance Master Yen would never do that. Of course it's true. However, if there really are troops stationed at the Horseshoe Colt, what do you say? Yun Chuzhou looked at An Linchuan with a faint smile. An Linchuan snorted coldly. I'll let you do whatever you want. A quarter of an hour later, Lin Chuan returned with his head drooping. Yun Chuzhou curled the corners of her lips. What else do you have to say now, young heroine? The reason why I have left 5 battalions of soldiers to guard the Xiaofeng port is firstly because I am certain that the Yan clan will not attack from the Xiaofeng port. Secondly, even if I have made a mistake in my judgment, the troops stationed at the horseshoe colt won't cause any losses. Lin Chuan's face was as red as a cooked shrimp as he said dryly, even if I am wrong, it's fine, right? If you want to be killed or flayed, do as you please. I don't want to argue with you. I just hope that through this matter, you'll learn a lesson. Before you speak, think before you speak, and don't speak without thinking. Lin Chuan opened his mouth, but he didn't say a word. Say what? The reason was in her hands. If he said any more, he would be asking for trouble. Leng Kuei and the others had nothing to say now. Even if they didn't say it, they couldn't help but be convinced in their hearts. This little girl could even guess the garrison troops of Horseshoe Colt. She really had a clear mind. Feng Ji pondered for a moment, then, he said, Alliance leader, although we have Horseshoe Colt to supplement our defense, we do not have to worry about the windbreak being broken through. However, the Yellow Mud Mound is nearly 100 miles away from us. If we rush over, will the garrison of the Yellow Mud Mound be dissatisfied? Bai Li asked. Yun Chuzhou smiled. It is certain that they will be dissatisfied. If they are narrow-minded, they might even hate us. Therefore, we cannot go over now. We just need to be prepared. Well, go over when the wind blows and the grass rubs. Well, be there in less than an hour. Well, be able to make it in time. Feng Ji and the others only nodded in agreement and didn't say anything else. However, they had completely withdrawn their contempt in their hearts. When the people of the unaffiliated Cultivator Alliance saw that their Little Nine Union leader dared to beat up Lin Chuan, a personal disciple of the Primordial Chaos sect, they immediately became more obedient. If their Little Ninth League master said that the moon in the sky was square, they would not have the slightest doubt. 3 days passed in a row, and everything was peaceful. The nightmare race had not made any movements. Yun Chuzhou could not help but grumble. She had not seen the nightmare race with her own eyes, so her understanding of the nightmare race was limited to the surface. She did not know what was the specific difference between the so-called nightmare race and the human race. Lin Chuan, this fellow, did not know how to take a beating. He curled his lips and said, You don't even know about the Yan clan, yet you have come to fight? You sure have guts. Yun Chuzhou glanced at him. Since heroine understands, then explain to me. Lin Chuan suddenly felt that he had something to show off. He said proudly, although the Yan clan's body cannot turn into a fog like the demon clan, they have a natural talent, which is to release the Yan Qi. After a cultivator inhales the Yan Qi, their thinking and actions will become sluggish. In this way, when the human clan and the Yan clan are fighting, they will have to divert their attention to avoid inhaling the Yan Qi, and their fighting strength will be greatly reduced. Yun Chuzhou glanced at him. These books all have introductions, do you even need to tell me? Lin Chuan, this guy really wanted to slap himself, so he called him a mouth man. Shang Wanhao was afraid that this guy, Lin Chuan, would anger Yun Chuzhou again, so he quickly said, Other than these, the nightmare race's people are all very outstanding in appearance, and they also have their own charm. In addition, the people of the Yan clan don't raise spirit beasts, but nightmare beasts that consume nightmare energy. Nightmare beasts are generally larger in size, and they have fierce temperaments. They are very difficult to deal with. Yun Chuzhou nodded. Shang Wanhao was obviously much more reliable than that idiot, Lin Chuan. In order to get back at him, Lin Chuan said, How is it? Do you feel that you're thinking too simply now? Even if it's really like you said, and the Yan clan will attack from the Yellow Mud Mound, you may not be able to help even if you bring 4 battalions. We'll know when we find out if we can't help. However, young Masterin, do you want to be intimate with the military staff again? And Lin Chuan immediately became listless. He didn't want to embarrass himself anymore. Leng Xiaojiu, well see. He wouldn't be a gentleman if he didn't take revenge. That night, a freelance martial artist on duty hurriedly reported, Alliance leader, the nightmare race is starting to make a move. Yun Chujia's eyes lit up. Good timing. She had nothing better to do. This fellow propped up his spiritual energy barrier and climbed to the top of the mountain to look at the Yen clan side. As expected, there were many black shadows moving. Although there was moonlight, one could only make out a rough outline. And Lin Chuan lowered his voice. I think your guess is definitely wrong. The Yen clan is obviously sending more troops to the windbreak. Perhaps they will launch an attack in the second half of the night. Yun Chujiu shook her head. Although the Yen clan is sending more troops, you can see that the movements of those black shadows seem orderly but are actually chaotic. They must be setting up a trap. Uncle Feng, the three of us will bring the other 4 battalions to reinforce the yellow mud mound immediately. You and Vice Alliance leader Leng will guard the windbreak. You don't want to make any mistakes, but you don't want to make any meritorious deeds. Just slowly deal with them and don't advance recklessly. It doesn't matter even if they really attack. Anyway, once the sounds of fighting start, those people from Horseshoe Colt will rush over soon. Don't worry. After spending the past few days together, Feng Zhi knew that although this Leng Xiaojiu was young, he was a man of his word. He immediately nodded and said, Alliance leader, don't worry. I will do my best to guard the wind gap. Yun Chujiu gave a few more instructions before leading in Lin Chuan and Shengguan Hao to lead 4 battalions of itinerant cultivators to the Yellow Mud Mound. The Yellow Mud Mound was named because there was a large yellow mud swamp in the direction of the Yen clan. Due to the fact that flying was prohibited here, it was extremely difficult for the Yen clan to attack. As the Yellow Mud Mound was easy to defend but hard to attack, the Alliance army only sent less than 800 men to defend. The leader was Fan Jichuan, the son of the head of the Fan family, who was also Fan Mingchuan's father. Back then, the head of the Fan family had spent a lot of effort to obtain the Yellow Mud Mound. It was easy to defend but hard to attack, so it was the least dangerous. Not only could it increase the Fan family's prestige, but it would not be dangerous. Fan Mingchuan had also been played a little trick by the head of the Fan family and transferred to Fan Jiquan's side. During this period of time, he could be said to be in the prime of his life. These days, Fan Jichuan had been in a heated relationship with a female disciple of the Killing Yuan sect. He was more interested in beauty than power. Otherwise, he would not have been hooked up with Yi Xinwan in the first place. Moreover, the head of the Fan family had been grooming Fan Mingchuan. Therefore, Fan Jichuan directly became the manager, leaving the task of guarding the Yellow Mud Mound to Fan Mingchuan. Fan Mingchuan became the actual person in charge of the Yellow Mud Mound Pass. Naturally, he was flattered by some people. He immediately vented out the cowardice he had received from Yun Chujiu. He felt refreshed. As for the Yellow Mud Pass defenses, he felt that they were absolutely safe. Besides, the other side was the Yellow Mud Swamp. Unless the nightmare race had water in their brains, they would only use the Yellow Mud Pass as a breakthrough point, so they could rest easy. The higher they went, the lower they worked. As the father and son of the Fan family were not paying attention, the allied armies below were even more careless. Dozing off while on duty occurred from time to time. Just as Fan Mingchuan was cultivating in the meeting tent, an allied force rushed in, rolling and crawling. Young hero Fan, this is bad. The Nightmare clan has already passed through the Yellow Mud Swamp. They have already begun to attack the pass. What? Fan Mingchuan suddenly stood up. How is this possible? How did they pass through the Yellow Mud Swamp? I don't know either. When I found them, they were already at the foot of the mountain. Quickly get someone to strengthen the defense. Smash the rolling stones and logs down. You must defend them. Yes. After Fan Mingchuan made simple arrangements, he quickly went to see Fan Jichuan. Fan Jichuan was drinking and having fun with the female disciple of the Killing Origin sect. When he heard that the Yen clan was about to attack, he was so scared that he sobered up. He hurriedly followed Fan Mingchuan to the top of the mountain. Mingchuan, I've given you the responsibility of defending. You actually made such a big mistake. You've really let me down. When Fan Jichuan thought of the serious consequences of losing the yellow mud mound, he immediately vented his anger on Fan Mingchuan. Fan Mingchuan was originally raised by the head of the Fan family. He was never close to Fan Jichuan. Now that he was reprimanded by him, he immediately retorted, "Father, if you had spent your time having fun patrolling the pass, tonight wouldn't have happened. You vile creature. You actually dare accuse me of being your father? You've really rebelled." Fan Jichuan said angrily out of embarrassment. "Father, you should calm down. It's more important to think of a way to defend the yellow mud mound. Otherwise, grandfather won't spare us." Fan Mingchuan really did not fancy his father, who was obsessed with women. The allied army under them had always been in a state of panic. Now that the main general and his son had started an internal conflict, everyone had even less backbone. Although the allied forces had prepared rolling stones and logs to smash down with all their might, the threat they posed to the nightmare race was really limited. The nightmare race had the intrepid nightmare beasts clear the way in front while the nightmare race people hid behind the nightmare beasts. They had climbed halfway up the mountain without much effort. Fan Jichuan stomped his feet and shouted, "What are you all standing there for? Use your spirit energy to attack and send the nightmare race back." When everyone heard this, they quickly launched their spiritual beasts and spiritual power attacks in an attempt to stop the nightmare race's attack. "Sir Fan, the nightmare race has 4 times more people than us. We can't hold them off at all." "Yeah, the nightmare race has obviously used our yellow mud mound as a breakthrough point. Sir Fan, young hero Fan, quickly send someone to call for help." Fan Jichuan roared in exasperation, "Call for help? The nearest gust of wind is also 100 li away from us. Baile's yellow mud mound has long been lost. Moreover, there might be the Yen clan attacking from the gust of wind. Why would they send out troops to help us? Cut the crap and hold on for me." Although Fan Jichuan had said so, Fan Mingchuan still sent one of his men to the windbreak to ask for help. He thought to himself that even if the yellow mud mound was lost, he had done all he could. If the windbreak did not send anyone over, the defenders at the windbreak would have to share a part of the responsibility. At this moment, the nightmare race was only a few hundred feet away from the top of the mountain, and the nightmare race had begun to release their nightmare chi. On one hand, the Alliance army had to prevent the absorption of the nightmare chi, and on the other hand, they had to block the attacks of the nightmare beasts. They were instantly thrown into a flurry. When Fan Jichuan saw that something bad was going to happen, he actually ran away. He was the leader of the defending Alliance army. The moment he ran, the Alliance army under him instantly lost the will to continue fighting. They ignored the wild roars of Fan Mingchuan behind them and followed behind Fan Jichuan as they ran. Fan Mingchuan saw that the situation was over, so he had no choice but to bring the remaining small group of people down from the top of the mountain. Just as he was about to escape, several nightmare beasts had already rushed down from the top of the mountain. Only then did Fan Mingchuan realize that although the nightmare beasts that were the first to rush down did not have wings, they had a pair of fleshy wings on their bodies that were enough to support them to slide down from the top of the mountain without getting hurt. This kind of fleshy-winged nightmare beasts were extremely ferocious. They formed a wall of flesh, cutting off the Alliance army's path of retreat. Fan Jichuan felt this regret in his heart. If he had known this would happen, he would have retreated earlier. He did not care about any bullshit reputation. Preserving his life was more important than anything else. At this moment, the main army of the nightmare race also charged down from the peak of the mountain in an unending stream. The leader was a handsome man. The man smiled at the allied army, and the female cultivators felt their hearts tremble. If not for the suppression of their spiritual power, they might have already involuntarily thrown themselves into the arms of the man. Even Fan Jiquan's heart skipped a beat. He felt that this man was much more beautiful than the female disciple of the Killing Yuan sect, and his gaze became a little blurred. Fan Mingchuan saw his father's useless appearance and was so angry that he gritted his teeth. He shouted at the man sternly, "Your nightmare clan has already promised that the human race will never invade. Aren't you afraid of being punished by the Tian Dao if you go back on your words?" The man smiled. "The relationship between our nightmare race and the human race is like that of a lion and a tiger. There has never been a logic of who is more noble and who is more lowly. It's just the law of the jungle. Back then, your human race was strong, so our nightmare race could only curl up in the far west. Now that our nightmare race is stronger, why can't we take back our territory with our strength?" Fan Mingchuan didn't know how to refute the man's words for a moment. He could only say weakly, "No matter what, you are betraying us. If you retreat now, we will pretend that nothing has happened. Otherwise, you will regret it." The man still had a smile on his face as he said, "You might have made a mistake. Right now, you are like fish in a barrel. The ones who should surrender are you. All of you, surrender immediately and submit to our nightmare race. You will become our slaves voluntarily. This young master can promise to spare all of you from death. Don't even think about it. How can a dignified cultivator like us become your nightmare race's slaves? Prepare to die." Fan Mingchuan directly released a spirit leopard towards the man. Occasionally missing content, please report errors in time. The young master of the nightmare race merely curled the corners of his lips and did not dodge at all. He directly struck out with his palm, and the black palm wind instantly tore Fan Mingchuan's spirit leopard into pieces. Fan Mingchuan was so shocked that he took a few steps back. Although his spirit energy was not too high, only at the 7th level of the spiritual void tier, his spirit beast would not be so easily smashed into pieces by someone else's palm. Moreover, the young master of the nightmare race in front of him did not look very old. How could he have such profound spiritual power? The young master of the nightmare race smiled arrogantly. The strength of the human race is indeed getting weaker and weaker with each generation. Even if you don't use the nightmare beast or the nightmare chi, you are still vulnerable to a single blow. If you know the situation and quickly surrender, or else you will only die. Although Fan Jichuan was afraid of death, in order to survive, he could only grit his teeth and charge forward. His spirit energy was much higher than Fan Mingchuan's, at the 2nd level of the ethereal space realm. However, his 2nd level of the ethereal space realm was activated by medicinal pills. His actual combat ability was really not that good. In less than 10 rounds, he had been sent flying by the young master of the nightmare race with a single slap. When the other experts in the allied army saw this, they all stepped forward to exchange blows with the young master of the nightmare race. Unfortunately, they had only lasted for less than 20 rounds before they were sent flying. Moreover, the young master of the nightmare race had not used any of the nightmare chi or the nightmare beast's external forces at all. The hearts of the allied army's people instantly sank. It was over. They were dead for sure. The young master of the nightmare race glanced at the allied army's people with disdain. Do you see that? This is the difference in strength. If you don't wish to die, then you will willingly accept the nightmare race's soul imprint and become the nightmare race's slaves. Don't worry, when our nightmare race governs the immortal essence continent, you will have even more power than you have now, and your cultivation speed will also be faster. It'll give you half an incense stick's worth of time to consider. If you insist on not surrendering, then the nightmare race will go on a killing spree. The reason why the young master of the nightmare race did this was because, although the allied forces had fewer people than them, it would also waste a lot of time if they fought. Secondly, if they were to take these people as slaves, they would be able to understand the details of the allied forces, which would be very advantageous for them in conquering the immortal Yuan continent. Thirdly, he could already see that Fan Jichuan was clearly afraid of death and would very likely surrender. As long as his leader surrendered, the rest of the people would most likely submit as well. Not far away, Lin Chuan was so anxious that he stomped his feet. He lowered his voice and said, "Aren't we going to charge up? What are we waiting for?" Yun Chujiu said indifferently, "Of course, we're watching a good show. Didn't the head of the Fan family look down on our unaffiliated cultivator alliance? I want everyone to see how his precious son and grandson surrendered to the Yen clan." And Lin Chuan, he now felt that this black-hearted Ling Xiaojiu was giving him a lot of face by beating him 10 times. This guy was a devil that ate people without spitting out their bones. The Fan family was really in deep shit this time. Once they really surrendered, when word spread out, they would be waiting to be stabbed in the spine by the people of the Immortal Essence continent. The time for half an incense stick to burn quickly passed. The young master of the nightmare race said with a smile, "The time for half an incense stick to burn is up. What do you all think? If you all still don't express your stance, I can only order my subordinates and the nightmare beasts to launch an attack." Following the words of the young master of the nightmare race, the people of the nightmare race began to clamor, and the nightmare beasts also began to roar in anger. For a moment, the alliance army fell into a strange silence. Fan Jichuan gritted his teeth and said to Fan Mingchuan, "Mingchuan, it's better to live than die. Young master is right. The strong prey on the weak. This is the law of the Tian Dao." The nightmare race was unstoppable. The human race could no longer hold on. Defeat was only a matter of time. I am prepared to surrender. You should also surrender with me. Fan Mingchuan's heart wavered, but he also felt that the Yen clan shouldn't be able to defeat the human race. If the human race won in the future, his ending would definitely be very miserable. Thus, he didn't say anything. Fan Jichuan saw that Fan Mingchuan didn't say anything, so he thought that he tacitly agreed. Thus, he said, "Young master, we, father and son, surrender. In the future, we'll be at your disposal. Don't worry, I will think of a way to persuade my father to surrender. Our Fan family is a super aristocratic family. With our help, the Yen clan will definitely be able to recover the Immortal Essence continent faster." When a disciple in the allied army heard Fan Jiquan's shameless words, he immediately shouted angrily, "Fan Jichuan, you are shameless. The Immortal Essence continent belongs to us humans. How can the Yen clan recover it? Also, as a human, you actually surrendered to the Yen clan for the sake of your life. You are not fit to be a human." Fan Jichuan immediately changed his face. A wise man submits to circumstances. Moreover, in the past, this immortal Yuan continent was indeed a place where humans, demons, and Yen clan coexisted. I say, what's wrong with the Yen clan taking back the lost land? I advise you to surrender as well, or you will die. That person was almost angered to death by Fan Jiquan's shameless face. He didn't expect that the son of the dignified Fan clan's patriarch would be so shameless. The young lord of the Nightmare clan was clearly very satisfied with Fan Jiquan's tactfulness. He smiled and said, "Lord Fan is right. A wise man submits to circumstances. Once the Nightmare clan reclaims the immortal Yuan continent, the Fan clan will receive the same treatment as the aristocrats of our Nightmare clan. As for the rest of you, will you surrender or die?" Only a very small number of people in the allied army revealed the intention of surrendering to the Nightmare clan. Most of them would rather die than surrender to the Nightmare clan. This was the moral integrity of the human race. Death wasn't scary, but losing one's backbone was even more terrifying. Fan Mingchuan was still hesitating. He did not want to die, but he also did not want to bear the blame. The patience of the nightmare race's young master was clearly exhausted. He sneered, "Those who surrender, stand to the left. The rest will be killed without mercy." Fan Jichuan immediately ran to the left and stood there. A few scattered people stood behind him. Fan Mingchuan gritted his teeth and still stood to the left. Nothing was more important than his life. Moreover, the nightmare race clearly had the upper hand. They would definitely obtain the final victory. A certain Jiu, who was squatting in the dark, put away the recording stone in satisfaction. It was a pity that she did not have a shadow stone. Otherwise, the recording would have been even more interesting. However, there were so many witnesses at the scene, so there was no need to be afraid of the Fan father and son denying it. When he thought of the expression of that old thing, the head of the Fan clan, he felt a sense of anticipation. When the young master of the Yen clan saw that there were only a few people who had surrendered, a ruthless glint flashed in his eyes. "All right, since you all do not know the situation, then I will send you on your way. Do it, kill them." Right at this moment, someone said coldly, "Io, on your way. The ones who should be on their way should be your nightmare race, right? In the middle of the night, your nightmare race didn't sleep and came here to throw their lives away. Is there something wrong with your head?" The young master of the nightmare race was shocked. He was too confident. He felt that the humans were extremely stupid. They wouldn't have guessed that the nightmare race would use the yellow mud mound as a breakthrough point, so he didn't guard against the other people around him. Moreover, he had thought that even if there were other people lying in ambush, they would have rushed out immediately. Who would have thought that a certain Jiu would still have the time to record the evidence at this time? "You, who are you people?" The young master of the nightmare clan noticed that the people who had come were all dressed differently. They did not seem to be from the allied army. Yun Chujio curled the corners of her lips and made a hand gesture. The Loose Cultivator Alliance behind this fellow shouted in unison, "The Loose Cultivator Alliance specializes in ruling the nightmare race. Little Ninth Alliance Master, you are invincible in the world." After the unaffiliated Cultivator Alliance's earth-shattering slogan was shouted out, the entire place fell into a strange silence. An Linchuan and Shengguan Hao, "Oh my god, this Leng Xiaojia's skin has reached a certain level. Is she invincible in the world? She's really shameless." Alliance Army, "Oh my god, this batch of reinforcements doesn't seem to be reliable no matter how I look at it. Can they really repel the Nightmare Clan? Father and son of the Fan family, why are there reinforcements? If I had known earlier, I wouldn't have surrendered." However, this so-called alliance leader of the unaffiliated Cultivator Alliance seemed so random. He was definitely not a match for the Nightmare race. Young master of the Nightmare race, where did this madman come from? Was he playing with the Nightmare race? In the midst of the silence, a certain Jiu smugly pointed at the young master of the Nightmare race. "How is it? I'm just asking you, are you afraid? The young master of the Nightmare Clan, could you please be more serious?" This was a battlefield between the Nightmare Clan and the human race, not a fight between two children. Were they afraid? Hei Shinjo continued, "There are two paths. Either you get lost or you die. You choose." An Linchuan and Shengguan Hao immediately found the words familiar, as if they had heard it somewhere before. Before they could think about it carefully, they heard the young master of the Nightmare Clan laughing arrogantly. "Is there no one else in your human race? You actually sent a girl at the 6th level of the Lingxian realm to lead the army in battle? An alliance of itinerant cultivators. Aren't itinerant cultivators just a bunch of mobs? And you still want to fight against our nightmare race? You're really wishful thinking. The young master of the nightmare race had originally been a little worried when he saw that reinforcements had arrived, but now that he saw them, his heart immediately calmed down. These people were simply unable to withstand a single blow. Yun Chuzhou hugged her shoulders and glanced at him, saying faintly, "Tsk, I feel that you're quite pitiful. Don't you feel that being a member of the Yen clan is like having 8 lifetimes of bad luck?" The face of the young master of the Yen clan instantly darkened. "Humph. Our Yen clan is 100 times nobler than your human clan. We will only be proud of being a member of the Yen clan. Tsk, your mouth is quite tough. I'm in a good mood today, so I'll explain it to you. Other races might have beautiful and ugly faces, but at least they're lively. What about your nightmare race? All of you look like vixens. Aren't you tired of looking at them? Regardless of gender, age, you're throwing flirtatious glances everywhere. You simply have no sense of shame. Also, why did you release your nightmare aura whenever you had nothing to do? Tsk, we humans only release our aura when we fart. From the looks of it, your nightmare race farts whenever you have nothing to do. It's really uncivilized. Also, those nightmare beasts were even more miserable. They would eat your stinky farts whenever they had nothing to do. Otherwise, they wouldn't be able to live on. Emma, just thinking about it makes me feel miserable, doesn't it?" After Yun Chuzhou finished speaking, she started to giggle happily. The people from the Freelance Martial Artist Alliance behind her immediately supported her and laughed loudly. The allied forces that were trapped also started to laugh loudly. They felt that regardless of how this Freelance Martial Artist Alliance's leader's spiritual power was, his mouth was really vicious. It was very satisfying. The young master of the nightmare race was so angry that his face flushed red. The people of the nightmare race behind him were also unable to contain their anger. Those nightmare beasts were howling in rage. Damn it, they had clearly absorbed the nightmare chi, but how did it turn into a fart in the mouth of this stinky girl? It was too angry. In order to create a good impression in front of the Yen clan, Fan Jichuan said angrily, "Stinky girl, you are just spouting nonsense. The Yen clan is a noble clan, how can you slander them?" Yun Chuzhou clicked her tongue in wonder. A few days ago, the head of the Fan clan was still bragging in front of Alliance Master Yen about how your Fan clan had bravely killed the enemy, but who would have thought that his son and grandson would actually become the slaves of the Yen clan now? It's really a slap to the face. A trace of embarrassment flashed across Fan Jiquan's face as he roared, "You little brat, what do you know? This is called assessing the situation. Don't look at how you've brought some people over. You're just a motley crew and aren't a match for the Yen clan at all. I advise you to surrender as soon as possible, or else all of you will die." Yun Chuzhou snapped her fingers, and the Freelance Martial Artist Alliance behind her immediately let out a deafening slogan once again. Freelance Martial Artist Alliance specializes in killing the Yen clan. Little Chief Jiu, you're invincible in the world. Did you hear that? This is our answer. The Yen clan. TCH. Let's not talk about anything else. Just look at the way the Yen characters are written. A clan that even ghosts detest, yet they still dare to lick their faces and invade our human clan. They are simply shameless. Yun Chuzhou pouted and said. The young master of the Yen clan was so angry that his face was contorted. They had always been proud of being a member of the Yen clan, but after hearing this stinky girl's words, for a moment, he felt that as a member of the Yen clan, how could they be so unlucky? Stinky girl, stop talking nonsense. Do you dare to fight me alone? The young master of the Yen clan thought very simply, it was a piece of cake for him to deal with this darn girl. As long as he killed this darn girl, the rest of the people wouldn't be worth mentioning. I don't dare, a certain Jiu said confidently. The young master of the nightmare race, heavens, where did this weirdo come from? Didn't they say that the human race cared a lot about face? How could there be such a shameless person? The young master of the nightmare race said with disdain, as the leader of the Loose Cultivator Alliance, you actually don't even dare to agree to my challenge. I even feel that it's not worth it for you Loose Cultivator Alliance people. Are you willing to be led by such a coward? Fuck your fucking bullshit. Is our alliance leader cowardly? This is called disdain. It's really scary to be uncultured. Right. Our little 9 alliance leader is invincible in the world, so why would he be afraid of you, a shitty nightmare race scum? Our little 9 alliance leader doesn't even need to do it himself. You guys will die if we casually talk about it. That's right, our little 9 alliance leader is calling this strategy, what do you know about it? Besides, our little 9 alliance leader has a noble status, why would he fight with a scum like you that even ghosts hate? And Linchuan and Shengguan Hao looked at each other. Damn, so the entire freelance martial artist alliance was this little 9's brainless fan? They had learned the term brainless fan from Yunchujiu. They felt that it was too appropriate to describe the freelance martial artist alliance. The young master of the nightmare race, had the intelligence of the human race deteriorated to this extent? Could it be that they didn't even have the basic ability to differentiate? The young master of the Yen clan gritted his teeth in anger and waved his hand. Kill. Leave no one alive. Yun Chujiu curled her lips. Little ones, put on your secret weapons and kill them all. Let these scum see how powerful our Loose Cultivator Alliance is. And Linchuan and Shengguan Hao were extremely curious. Secret weapons? What secret weapons? When they saw the gas masks on the faces of the Loose Cultivator Alliance, they were instantly dumbfounded. Wasn't this the gas masks that junior sister Little Nine had specially developed? However, now was clearly not the time to ask questions. The two of them also had such protective gas masks in their storage rings. They hurriedly took them out and wore them on their faces, then charged towards the nightmare race. The nightmare race people were dumbfounded. What the hell was this thing that these Loose Cultivator Alliance wore on their faces? It looked like a mask, but they had never heard of a mask made of cloth. Soon, the people of the nightmare race knew the purpose of this strange-looking thing. They found that the people of the Loose Cultivator Alliance were actually not afraid of the nightmare chi they released. The people of the Alliance army were immediately confident when they saw the situation. They began to fight against the Nightmare clan together with the Alliance of Itinerant Cultivators. As for Hei Xinjiu, she was standing behind a small slope and stretching her neck as she shouted, "Good kill! Good kill! You killed the Nightmare clan so badly. Brothers of the Alliance of Itinerant Cultivators, I have high hopes for you. Put in more effort. Allies of the Alliance, you can't be inferior to the Alliance of Itinerant Cultivators, right? Bring out your strength. I have high hopes for you, too." The young master of the nightmare race was already distraught. When he heard Hei Xinjia's shout, he was so angry that he smashed the mound into pieces with his palm. Hei Xinjiu had long dodged and said with a smile, "Yo, don't you have a bad eye? I'm right here. Come and kill me if you have the ability." The young master of the nightmare race hated this stupid girl who came out of nowhere. He ignored the others and rushed to Yun Chujiu. "Io, you really want to kill me? Do you think I'm stupid enough to wait for death here? Sorry, I have something to do. See you later." Hei Xinjiu said and ran away. The young master of the nightmare race was dumbfounded. He had fought many battles, big and small, but he had never met such a commander. Wasn't she afraid that her running away would cause the morale of the army to be scattered? However, it was obvious that his worries were unnecessary. Those people from the Freelance Martial Artist Alliance were all blind as they turned a blind eye to their alliance masters running away. Instead, they were even more motivated to fight the enemy bravely. What the hell? Seeing that Yun Chuzhou had already run away, the crown prince of the nightmare race snorted coldly and turned around to continue joining the battle. Not long after, He Xinjiu ran back with her head lowered. "Hey! That bastard of the nightmare race, if you have the ability, come and kill your grandmother." He Xinjiu placed her hands on her waist and shouted with a smile. The crown prince of the nightmare race was so angry that he jumped up and down again towards Yun Chuzhou. However, He Xinjiu disappeared again with a whoosh. After several times, the crown prince of the nightmare race was so angry that he chased after Yun Chuzhou all the way. He Xinjiu provoked him as she ran. He stole a glance and saw the crown prince of the nightmare race chasing after her. He was proud of himself. Regardless of whether it was the nightmare race or the demon race, he had to run into the ambush when he met her. He Xinjiu suddenly stopped running and said with a smile, "Are you stupid? Don't you know that this is called luring the enemy in? Don't you know that this is called going in alone? You idiot!" The nightmare race's crown prince's heart tightened. Only then did he realize that he had already run more than 10 miles in one breath. Just as he was about to turn around and leave, more than 100 people rushed out from the surrounding bushes and surrounded him. A certain Jiu changed her cheeky smile from before. She stared at the nightmare race's crown prince with a fierce gaze and waved her hand. "Kill!" The people of the Loose Cultivator Alliance immediately roared with killing intent. They had originally thought that lying in ambush here was simply unnecessary. They had not expected that their little ninth chief was simply a god. He had actually caught a big fish. The crown prince of the nightmare race. Heavens, if they killed the crown prince of the nightmare race, they would be the meritorious officers of the Immortal Essence continent in the future. The people of the Freelance Martial Artist Alliance instantly seemed to have been injected with stimulants as they howled and charged towards the crown prince of the nightmare race. The crown prince of the nightmare race was practically regretting his actions. He felt that humans were fools who took things for granted. Otherwise, their nightmare race would not have easily obtained a great victory the last time. This time, they had made thorough preparations and taken the yellow mud mound by surprise as a breakthrough point. It was supposed to be a foolproof operation, so how could such a bad thing suddenly appear in the middle of it? Just as the crown prince of the nightmare clan was pondering, he heard He Xinjiu shouting beside him with a smile, "Hey, son of a bitch! Are you wondering how we knew that you were using the yellow mud mound as a breakthrough point? Let me tell you the truth. I can calculate and observe the stars at night. I can calculate it all at once. Don't worry, there's no mole in your team. We're humans, how could there be a mole in the nightmare race? There really isn't." The nightmare race's crown prince's heart tightened. This wretched girl was full of schemes. The more she said there was no mole, the more it meant that there was a mole. No wonder this operation was so secretive and was even discovered by the humans. It turned out that there was a mole. When he returns, we must investigate thoroughly. Although the crown prince's spiritual power was superb, He Xinjiu had arranged for nearly 100 people to gang up on him here. No matter how powerful he was still not a match for her. However, when the crown prince of the nightmare race discovered that something was wrong, he had already used the secret technique of the nightmare race to ask for help. Therefore, very soon, a member of the nightmare race brought a nightmare beast over to rescue the crown prince of the nightmare race. "Wretched girl, don't be complacent. Our army has probably passed through the yellow mud pass by now. When the army arrives, all of you will die," the crown prince of the nightmare race said in a flustered and exasperated manner. Yun Chuzhou said exaggeratedly, I'm so scared." "Doesn't your nightmare clan have a special means of communication? Then why don't you ask how your army is doing?" When the nightmare clan's crown prince heard Yun Chuzhou say this, his heart skipped a beat. He hurriedly contacted the commander of the nightmare clan's army. Within his spiritual sense, the voice of the Nightmare Clan's commander-in-chief's flustered and exasperated voice was quickly transmitted over, Crown Prince. Our people had already passed through the yellow mud swamp. Just as we were about to climb up the mountain, a swarm of poisonous bees flew over from who knows where. There were also densely packed red ants on the ground, causing our people and nightmare beasts to fall to the ground one after another. Now, we have only attacked halfway up the mountain, Io, a miserable cry came from the other end. It was estimated that the leading general had most likely been attacked by poisonous bees or red ants. The Nightmare Clan Crown Prince's head buzzed. There were almost no demonic insects in the vast desert. How could there be a large swarm of poisonous bees and red ants for no reason? Could it be related to this smelly girl in front of him? The Nightmare Clan Crown Prince shook his head again. Impossible, this must be a coincidence. Not to mention humans, even the Nightmare Clan and the Demon Clan alone were unable to subdue so many demonic insects. Moreover, if they wanted the demonic insects to recognize their master, they could only subdue the eggs. So many demonic insects could not be produced in a short period of time. This darn girl was not old, so it was impossible. Just as the Nightmare Race Crown Prince was in a state of bewilderment, a battle cry came from afar. His heart tightened. The human race must have sent reinforcements. The tide had already turned. The Crown Prince of the Nightmare Race gritted his teeth. There was still plenty of time in the future, so it was more important to preserve his strength. He waved his hand. Retreat. Yun Chujio led her men and symbolically chased after them for a while. Only after they had chased the Crown Prince of the Nightmare Race and the others out of the yellow swamp did they call for a retreat. It was only at this moment that the allied army's reinforcements arrived. The battle cry that the Crown Prince of the Nightmare Race had heard earlier was just a feint arranged by a certain Jiu. This fellow did not have any delusions of actually being able to kill the Crown Prince of the Nightmare Race. This was only the first battle. It was just a small test of strength. Take it slow. There was no rush. Moreover, they had few people and were weak. If they really fought, they might not be a match for the Crown Prince of the Nightmare Race. This time, they had only been able to win by relying on their little tricks. Stopping when things were good. This was one of the secrets that a certain Jiu had kept for a long time. When the Alliance army received the news of the Yen clan's surprise attack on the Yellow Mud Mound, they immediately turned pale with fright. Because the Yellow Mud Mound was easy to defend but hard to attack, the Alliance army only sent less than 800 men to defend it. Moreover, their spiritual power was on the low side. Once the Yen clan broke through the Yellow Mud Mound, the consequences would be unimaginable. The head of the Fan family was even more anxious. His son and grandson were all stationed at the Yellow Mud Mound. If something happened, he didn't want to live anymore. Hence, the head of the Fan family took the initiative to request for reinforcements to the Yellow Mud Mound. Alliance Master Yen nodded in agreement and sent Mountain Master Zhua, Elder Jing, and the others along with 5,000 Alliance troops to rush to the Yellow Mud Mound. From afar, they could see that the entrance to the Yellow Mud Mound was brightly lit and there were even cheers. Everyone's heart sank. Could it be that the Nightmare Race had already broken through the Yellow Mud Mound? When everyone rushed to the vicinity of the Yellow Mud Mound, they realized that the large flag on it was the flag of the Alliance army, and they immediately heaved a sigh of relief. The head of the Fan family wiped the cold sweat off his forehead and said, "It seems that although my son is usually a little out of place, he can still do it at the crucial moment. I originally thought that he wouldn't be able to withstand the Nightmare Race's large-scale attack with less than 800 Alliance army troops. I didn't expect that he would actually be able to defend it. This really makes me feel gratified." Hearing what the head of the Fan family said, someone chimed in, "The head of the Fan family is too modest. Hero Fan usually hides his strength well. Luckily, Hero Fan is guarding the yellow mud mound. If it were anyone else, they would have been conquered by the Nightmare Clan long ago. That's right. I heard that the grandson of the head of the Fan family, young Master Ming Chuan, is also guarding the yellow mud mound. Father and son are guarding the same pass and have made great contributions. It can be said to be a good story. When the head of the Fan family heard everyone's flattery, he felt proud in his heart. However, he said, everyone is overpraising me. Jichuan and Ming Chuan are members of the Immortal Essence continent. It is their duty to guard the yellow mud mound with their lives. Our Fan family's family motto has also always emphasized that although cultivation is important, it is more important to be a person. Before they came to guard the yellow mud mound, I specially raised their heads and ordered them to guard the yellow mud mound with their lives. They are at the pass and must not retreat. When the crowd heard what the head of the Fan family said, they immediately flattered him. Elder Jing really didn't like the head of the Fan family's boasting. However, Fan Jichuan and his son were able to guard the yellow mud mound because of a miracle, so he didn't say anything. When the allied army arrived at the foot of the yellow mud mound, the yellow mud mound guards on duty quickly came over to greet them. The head of the Fan family noticed that the yellow mud mound guards were looking at him with a strange expression, and he felt pleased. He reckoned that these guards had been convinced by the succession rites and Ming Chuan's heroic actions, which was why they were looking at him with such adoration. The head of the Fan family coughed and said, "Your performance this time was very heroic. The Alliance Army will give you commendations and rewards. Where is your commander-in-chief?" A small general stationed at the yellow mud mound pointed at the peak of the yellow mud mound. "The commander is on the mountain, in case the Nightmare Clan attacks again." The head of the Fan family nodded, then turned to Mountain Master Zhua and the others and said, "The succession has indeed improved. It seems that the strict discipline that this old man has been giving him has been effective." The expressions of those stationed at the yellow mud mound were as if they were constipated. Improved? Strict discipline. Those two scum of your Fan clan had already joined the Yen clan, yet you were still licking your face and bragging here. Truly shameless. The head of the Fan clan was immersed in glory and did not notice the abnormal expressions of the garrison troops. However, Mountain Master Zhua and the others noticed it and muttered in their hearts, could there be some hidden reason behind this? Mountain Master Zhua didn't continue the conversation with the head of the Fan family. Instead, he said, "Head of the Fan family, let's go up and take a look at the situation first." The head of the Fan family was quite dissatisfied with Mountain Master Zhua's interruption of his bragging. However, thinking about it, Fan Jichuan and Fan Mingchuan had made a great contribution this time. There would be plenty of opportunities to brag in the future, so it wouldn't be too late. Thus, he nodded and led a portion of the Alliance army to climb up the mountain peak. When the head of the Fan clan and the others reached the mountain peak, they discovered that many of them were members of the Alliance of Itinerant Cultivators. A little girl was standing on a large rock and lecturing, "That's right, this battle has brought out the glory of our Alliance of Itinerant Cultivators. This battle has brought out the iron bones of our Immortal Essence Cultivators. Now, all of you, open your eyes wide and stare at those scum from the Nightmare race. Don't let them have any chance to take advantage of this. When the Allied army sends reinforcements, we can successfully retreat and hide our achievements and fame." Everyone was stunned. Leng Xiaojiu. Why was she and the people from the unaffiliated Cultivator Alliance here? Shouldn't they be stationed at the Gust of Wind? The head of the Fan family thought about it and felt that he understood the ins and outs of the matter. The blast was relatively close to the yellow mud mound, so Jichuan sent people to ask for help from the unaffiliated Cultivator Alliance. That was why Leng Xiaojiu sent people over. Thinking of this, the head of the Fan family's face suddenly darkened. This Leng Xiaojiu was really something. It was clearly his son and grandson who had sworn to guard the yellow mud mound to the death. When they were almost done guarding it, she, Ling Xiaojiu, had come to take advantage of it, and now she was still spouting nonsense. What a scoundrel! Thinking of this, the head of the Fan family snorted coldly. Alliance leader Leng, although you have contributed a lot by coming over to help defend the Yellow Mud Mound, isn't it a little too much? Where are Jichuan and Ming Chuan? Yun Chujiu looked at the head of the Fan family with a faint smile. A little too much? Head of the Fan family, don't you think it's a little rash to jump to a conclusion without asking what happened? Humph. I don't need to ask to know what happened. It's nothing more than Jichuan calling for help from your loose cultivator alliance after he found out that the Nightmare clan had used the Yellow Mud Mound as a breakthrough point. However, the gust of wind was a full 100 li away from the Yellow Mud Mound. By the time you arrived, Jichuan had already held on for more than an hour. Your arrival was just icing on the cake. Even without the help of the unaffiliated cultivator alliance, the succession could still last until the arrival of reinforcements like us. Didn't you say that you took away the credit of our alliance army? The head of the Fan family said in disdain. Did this Leng Xiaojiu really take him seriously? He was overestimating himself. What the head of the Fan family said makes sense. However, when we arrived, the Yellow Mud Mound had already been lost. This Yellow Mud Mound was taken back by our unaffiliated cultivator alliance. As for Lord Fan and young Master Fan, hee. Yun Chujiu curled the corners of her lips and said. This guy was really mean. He could have directly said that Fan Jichuan and Fan Mingchuan had defected, but he had to beat around the bush. Because this guy felt that only by slapping his face like this would he feel good. He liked to see arrogant fools slapping their faces the most. The head of the Fan family's heart sank, and he cried out in surprise, how are Jichuan and the others? Could it be that they've been sacrificed? They didn't die. They are still alive. However, Master Fan and young Master Fan have done some unexpected things. I believe that the head of the Fan family will be very interested in them. The head of the Fan family's heart skipped a beat. What? What did they do? It's not a big deal. They just joined the Yen clan, He Xinjiu said faintly. Occasionally missing content, please report errors in time. Instantly, everyone present fell into a strange silence. Defecting to the Nightmare clan? Wouldn't that mean that they had defected? Fan Jichuan and Fan Mingchuan had defected? The head of the Fan clan was stunned at first, then he shouted in exasperation, nonsense. You're slandering. How could Jichuan and Mingchuan have defected to the Nightmare clan? You must be jealous of their contributions, so you framed them. Where are Jichuan and Mingchuan? Where did you hide them? Yun Chujiu smiled faintly, slander. Come, head of the Fan family, listen carefully to what Lord Fan said just now. TSK, it really makes one's eyes light up. Fan Jiquan's voice came from the recording stone, young master, we, father and son, surrender. From now on, we will be at your disposal. Don't worry, I will think of a way to persuade my father to surrender. Our Fan family is a super aristocratic family. With our help, the Yen family will definitely be able to recover the Immortal Essence continent faster. The head of the Fan family buzzed. Yun Chujiu continued with a smile, head of the Fan family, Fan Jichuan still wants to persuade you to surrender too. Furthermore, the Crown Prince of the Yen family has agreed to Fan Jichuan. In the future, when the Yen family takes over the Immortal Essence continent, your Fan family and the Yen family's aristocrats will enjoy the same treatment. It's really enviable. You're spouting nonsense. This recording stone is fake. It's all fake. The head of the Fan clan actually already believed 80% of it in his heart, but he still retained a trace of fantasy. Yun Chujiu laughed lightly. Fake. The head of the Fan clan's explanation was really novel. Since you think that the recording stone is fake, then listen to what the Yellow Mud Mound garrison says. You can randomly choose a few people to ask, in case they say that I'm fake again. The head of the Fan family's voice was almost trembling as he picked a few garrison of the Yellow Mud Mound. Those garrison troops hated the Fan family father and son to death. If it wasn't for the unaffiliated Cultivator Alliance rushing over, none of them would have survived. Therefore, he immediately recounted the actions of the Fan family father and son, as well as the incident where Fan Jichuan indulged in women and didn't do anything serious. The head of the Fan family's head was buzzing. If not for his strong spiritual power, he would have passed out long ago. Yun Chujiu felt that it was about time, so she snapped her fingers and her subordinates brought the father and son of the Fan family who were locked up in a secret place over. Fan Mingchuan's eyes flickered. He had already thought of an excuse, but now that he saw the head of the Fan family, he immediately burst into tears. Grandfather. Grandfather. I have a favor to report. I don't really want to join the Yen clan. It's just that my father is obsessed with joining the Yen clan. I'm afraid that he will cause a great disaster, so I pretended to join the Yen clan. I thought that I could persuade him to change his mind. Moreover, I've infiltrated the Yen clan, and I can even be an insider for the human clan. Yun Chujiu burst into laughter. An insider? You speak as if it's true. If you are taken away by the Yen clan, they will immediately use a secret technique to make you into their slaves. If you have any other thoughts, the Yen clan will know about it. How can you be an insider? It's fine if you are afraid of death, but you actually used your own father to clear your name. How shameless. Fan Mingchuan's face was flushed red as he said angrily, You are slandering me. As Fan Mingchuan said this, his body slanted and he fainted. Yun Chujiu curled her lips. It was really a family tradition. Yi Xinhuan would pretend to faint for no reason. This Fan Mingchuan actually did this too. Did he think that everyone present was a fool? Yun Chujiu was too lazy to expose him. She said to Mountain Master Zhua and the others, Everyone, I believe that all of you have heard the matter clearly. Not only did the Fan father and son leave their post without permission, but they also joined the Nightmare clan. This is truly a heinous crime. As for how to deal with this matter, it is not up to us, the unaffiliated Cultivator Alliance. Since your reinforcements have arrived, we will withdraw to the Fiend Wind Gap and stand guard. Farewell. Alliance Master Leng, your unaffiliated Cultivator Alliance has made a great contribution this time. Can you pass on your experience to our Alliance army? Can you follow me to see Alliance Master Yen and tell him the details? Mountain Master Zhua said politely. He had thought that this Leng Xiaojiu was young and frivolous, but he did not expect that he really had some skills. If the unaffiliated Cultivator Alliance had not arrived in time, the consequences this time would have been unimaginable. Of course, I can also watch how Alliance Master Yen will deal with the Fan father and son. TSK, a super aristocratic family like the Fan family actually produced two traitors, it really makes one sigh. He Xinjiu never showed mercy to her enemies, moreover, the Fan father and son were such spineless people, they deserved to die. The head of the Fan family cast a cold glance at Yun Chujiu, his heart filled with anger at Fan Jichuan and Fan Mingchuan's stupidity, as well as hatred for Yun Chujiu's persistence. He Xinjiu would never swallow her anger. She immediately sneered and said, Head of the Fan family, why are you glaring at me? It's not like I'm the one who asked your son and grandson to submit to the Yen clan. If you want to blame someone, then blame yourself for not teaching them well. It's fine if this person's spiritual power is lower, but if his quality is bad, TSK, then there's really no hope. The head of the Fan family wished he could strangle this bad news bag to death. Just as he was about to say something, he heard Yun Chujiu continue, Head of the Fan family, you should actually thank me. If I had not come in time, your sons and grandsons would have really become slaves of the Yen clan. When that time comes, what would you do? Perhaps for the sake of your sons and grandsons' lives, you would have joined the Yen clan. When that time comes, how would you have the face to meet your ancestors of the Fan family? Therefore, I am the benefactor of your Fan family. Now, not only are you not thanking me, you are even hating me. This is simply repaying kindness with enmity. What the hell? Thank you. The head of the Fan family spat out a mouthful of blood. In his heart, he hated Yun Chuzhou. There was still time, and sooner or later, he would kill this brat. However, what the head of the Fan family was most worried about was how to save his son and grandson's lives. Betrayal was a huge crime, especially after Fan Jichuan said those words in front of everyone. When everyone arrived at the Alliance Army's meeting tent, the sky was already beginning to brighten. After Alliance Master Yen learned what had happened, he praised Yun Chuzhou and the Loose Cultivator Alliance. He also specifically asked about the method of making gas masks, so that the Alliance Army could learn from him and quickly make a batch. As for the matter of the desert poisonous wasps and the big red ant, Hei Shinjo naturally would not say that she was the one who put them there. The fellow said with a smile, the desert poisonous bees and the giant fire ants are the demonic insects of the Immortal Essence continent. They naturally have to help us. This might be the will of heaven. Lai Yen said no one could think of any other possibility, so they agreed with Yun Chujia's statement. In the end, it was the father and son of the Fan family's turn to deal with the problem. The head of the Fan family said with tears in his eyes, Alliance Master Yen, everyone, according to the military rules, these two evil creatures should be executed. But everyone, on account of my face, on account of the dozens of people who died in our Fan family last time, can you spare their lives? If they are lucky enough to survive, our Fan family is willing to donate 1 billion high-grade spirit stones to the Alliance Army as military expenses. Please show mercy, Alliance Master Yen and everyone. Yun Chuzhou curled her lips at the side. 1 billion. This old thing was quite willing, but it was also true. No matter how good the money was, it was not as important as the lives of his son and grandson. Alliance Master Yen was in a difficult position. Treason was a serious crime and should be punished. However, he could not disregard the face of the Fan family head. Moreover, 1 billion high-grade spirit stones was not a small amount. Now was the time for the Alliance Army to use money. Alliance Master Yen pondered for a while and then asked for the opinions of the others in the meeting tent. Everyone had different opinions. Some were inclined to kill the father and son of the Fan family to establish military might, some were pleading for the father and son of the Fan family, and some were silent. They had no choice but to raise their hands to vote in the end. In the end, the result was 10 to 10, which meant that half of the people agreed to kill the father and son of the Fan family, and the other half agreed that the head of the Fan family would use money to buy his life. Alliance Master Yen was confused. What should they do with this draw? At this moment, Hei Shinjo said, Alliance Master Yen, I haven't voted yet. The crowd was stunned. They then realized that Ling Xiaojiu had been sitting on the stool to watch the show and had not raised his hand to vote. If it were before today, this guy's words would not have any weight, and perhaps he would not even have the right to vote. However, things were different now. The unaffiliated Cultivator Alliance had made a great contribution. If it wasn't for this Ling Xiaojiu, they wouldn't be able to sit here peacefully. They would have been badly beaten by the Yen clan long ago. Alliance Master Yen said politely, Alliance Master Leng, since you didn't vote just now, do you prefer to kill the Fan father and son or spare them? Yun Chuzhou said with a smile, it depends on the sincerity of the Fan family. After saying that, Hei Shinjo looked at the Fan family's master with a smile and didn't continue. The people in the meeting tent didn't realize what she meant. What did she mean by the sincerity of the Fan family's master? The Fan family's master was also dumbfounded. Although he hated Yun Chuzhou to death, his son and grandson's lives were in her hands now. He could only swallow his anger and ask, Alliance Master Leng, what do you mean by sincerity? He Xinjiu tossed a spiritual stone in her hand and curled her lips, saying, TSK, TSK. Head of the Fan family, our brothers in the Freelance Martial Artist Alliance have gone through a lot of trouble to clean up your son and grandson's mess. Some of our brothers are even seriously injured. Don't you think that the Fan family should express their gratitude? Everyone, this little girl was not the leader of the unaffiliated Cultivator Alliance. She was simply a bandit leader. What was the difference between this and an open robbery? Wasn't she clearly trying to blackmail the leader of the Fan family? The leader of the Fan family almost spat out another mouthful of blood. He gritted his teeth and asked, how much do you want? He Xinjiu counted with her fingers and said, there are 3,628 people in the unaffiliated Cultivator Alliance. Each of us has 100,000 high-grade spiritual stones, which is a total of 336,280,000. I'll give you a 99,811 discount. If you round it up, you can just give me 400 million spiritual stones. The head of the Fan family was so angry that he almost fainted. 400 million spiritual stones. You really dare to ask for it? He only gave 1 billion high-grade spiritual stones to the coalition army, but this brat actually wanted to extort 400 million high-grade spiritual stones from him. Besides, shouldn't it be 300 million? Why was it 400 million? Did she not know how to count? Just as the head of the Fan family was about to refuse, he heard He Xinjiu say with a smile, head of the Fan family, don't you think it's a little expensive? Let me tell you, it's not expensive. Don't forget that I have the recording stone that Fan Jichuan spouted nonsense with. If you don't give me money, I will choose a place with more people to put it. By then, your Fan family will be famous. The head of the Fan family gritted his teeth and said, good. Good. League Master Leng is indeed courageous and knowledgeable. I admire you. Deal. You flatter me, head of the Fan family. Come, don't waste time. Give me the spiritual stone first. I will raise my hand immediately. I will give you the money and the goods. He Xinjiu said with a smile. The head of the Fan family was practically trembling as he transferred 400 million upper-grade spirit stones to Yun Chuzhou. Half of it was because of heartache, and the other half was because of anger. He Xinjiu accepted the spirit stones. She immediately raised her claws and said, Alliance Master Yen, I agree not to kill the Fan family's father and son. After all, although their hearts are extremely evil, due to Junior's timely obstruction, they haven't had the time to do anything harmful to the immortal essence continent. However, this kind of character is indeed not that good. Everyone, it's best not to have any dealings with them in the future. The Fan family head choked and immediately fainted from anger. You are simply too despicable. After taking 400 million upper-grade spirit stones from him, you actually still want to step on him in the end. This is too wicked. The corners of Alliance Master Yan's eyes twitched for a moment, and he hurriedly got someone to wake up the Fan family head, and then began to discuss serious matters. Although the Yen clan didn't succeed this time, it also woke us up. The Yen clan has many tricks up their sleeves. Everyone must be on guard. Alliance Master Yen said a lot of things. The main idea was to get everyone to be on high alert, and to quickly make the kind of gas mask that Yun Chuzhou provided, and finally announce the end of the meeting. Yun Chuzhou walked out of the meeting tent with a smile. An Linchuan and Shangguan Hao were waiting outside, almost impatiently dragging her to the side. Are you junior sister Xiaojiu? Junior sister Xiaojiu, you are so mean. You actually beat senior brother 10 times. How did I offend you? And Lin Chuan said angrily. He and Shang Guanhao had already confirmed Yun Chujia's identity. If it weren't for junior sister Xiaojiu, she wouldn't have said what the god said. If it weren't for junior sister Xiaojiu, she wouldn't have a gas mask. We'll talk about it when we get back. I've made a small fortune today. Let's go back and celebrate. He Xinzhou didn't admit or deny it. And Lin Chuan and Shang Guanhao had an epiphany. This black-hearted Leng Xiaojiu was indeed Yun Chujia's troublemaker. The two of them were both curious and impressed. How on earth did this black-hearted person become the alliance leader of the Freelance Martial Artist Alliance? After the three of them returned to the sandstorm, Yun Chujiu gathered the people from the Unaffiliated Cultivator Alliance. She first summarized the experience of this operation and then said, "I've said before that the rewards are clear. This time, everyone's performance was very good, so I specially thought of a way to earn some spirit stones. Everyone will be rewarded with 10,000 high-grade spirit stones as encouragement." The Loose Cultivator Alliance's people simply couldn't believe their ears. Did this black-hearted alliance leader eat the wrong medicine? She actually wanted to reward each of them with 10,000 high-grade spirit stones. Did the sun rise from the north? After a while, when everyone really received 10,000 high-grade spirit stones, their eyes were filled with tears. Although this alliance leader was black-hearted and shameless, she seemed to be not bad. At least they could win the war by following her, and at least they could earn money by following her. However, they had a question. Where did their black-hearted union leader earn so many spirit stones? If these people knew that their black-hearted union leader had embezzled 90% of the spirit stones, they would definitely feed their gratitude to the dogs. At this moment, He Xinzhou was comparing notes with Lin Chuan and Shang Guanhao. It was nothing more than showing off how she became the union leader of the Unaffiliated Cultivator Union. And Lin Chuan and Shang Guanhao were stunned. A moment later, Lin Chuan widened his eyes and asked in disbelief, "Junior sister Jiu, do you mean that Leng Datu is Leng Kuei of the Yuan killing sect?" Yun Chujiu nodded, "Yes, I gave him a fake name. Isn't it nice?" And Lin Chuan, Shang Guanhao, little ninth junior sister was good in every way, but there seemed to be something wrong with her aesthetic standards. How could an unfashionable name like Leng Datu be considered a good name? After Lin Chuan came back to his senses, he hugged his stomach and laughed out loud. That fellow Leng Kuei used to be so arrogant. I didn't expect him to be called Leng Datu. Ha ha ha, I'm dying of laughter. Although Shang Guanhao was not as exaggerated as Lin Chuan, he was still laughing his head off. They were not on good terms with the murderous Yuan sect, so naturally, they were not on good terms with Leng Kuei. In the past, when they met, they often exchanged cold words with each other. They did not expect Leng Kuei to be tricked by junior sister Jiu. Just as the two of them were laughing their heads off, Leng Kuei walked in from outside the tent. Lin Chuan held his stomach and pointed at Leng Kuei, "Leng Dadi, Leng Dadi. You have such a day too. Ha ha ha, I'm so amused." Leng Kuei came in to ask about Yun Chujia's yellow mud mound. When he heard Lin Chuan's words, he immediately knew that his identity was exposed. He was angry and angry at the same time. He roared, "Lin Chuan, shut up. Okay, he'll shut up. Deputy Chief of Leng Datu, And Lin Chuan rolled on the ground with laughter. Seeing that Leng Kuei's hair was about to explode, Yun Chujiu touched her nose guiltily. "Senior brother that's enough. I gave this name to senior brother Leng. Is it that funny? I think it's pretty good. Senior brother Leng, don't be angry. Senior brother has a problem with his aesthetic judgment. Leng Datu is such a good name. Really, I think it's pretty good." Leng Kuei suddenly had something to vent his anger on. He gnashed his teeth and said, "Yun Chujiu, if you think Leng Datu's name is good, why did you name yourself Ling Xiaojiu instead of Ling Xiaotu? He Xinjiu coughed dryly. She is a girl. How can she be called by such a vulgar name? Ling Kuei, so he was a man, so he deserved to be called Ling Datu, a vulgar name? Yun Chujiu saw that Ling Kuei was about to spit fire, she quickly smoothed her hair. Senior brother Ling, don't be angry. Don't be angry. The name is a small matter. We have made a great contribution this time. Master Xiaohe will definitely be proud of you when he hears this news. When that time comes, who in the entire murderous origin sect will not praise you, senior brother Ling Kuei? Ling Data's name will also be a good story in the future. He Xinjia's boisterous words finally extinguished Ling Kuei's anger. And Lin Chuan also felt that he had gone too far just now, so he quickly changed the topic. Junior sister Xiaojiu, what should we do next? Young heroine, please address me as Chief Xiaojiu in the future. After all, my identity cannot be exposed for the time being. Besides, public affairs are public affairs, and private affairs are private affairs. I have always distinguished between public affairs and private affairs, He Xinjiu said pretentiously. And Lin Chuan, being pretentious was like being struck by lightning. However, this fellow did not seem to be afraid of being struck by lightning. I think that actually, blindly defending won't solve the problem. It's best to take the initiative to attack and completely exterminate this group of scum from the Nightmare Clan or drive them back to the far west. Unfortunately, although my prestige has increased a little, it's still not enough. Those old fogies won't listen to me, so we can't be too hasty in this matter. We still have to slowly accumulate prestige. Right now, I only have one wish, and that is that those scumbags from the Nightmare Clan better find something to do and let me torture them properly. That way, I can quickly build up some prestige. He Xinjiu kept calling him me, and the corners of An Linchuan and the other's eyes twitched. This bad deed was perfectly explained, what was being smug? What was shameless? For a few days in a row, there was nothing unusual about the Nightmare Clan. He Xinjiu was really bored out of her mind, so she decided to systematically train the Loose Cultivator Alliance's physical strength. As a result, the members of the Loose Cultivator Alliance were all out of luck. Being trained to death by this fellow all day long, they simply felt that it was even more miserable than a trial. But there were many people who were even more unlucky than them. On this day, Alliance Master Yen was in the meeting tent discussing matters with Mountain Master Zhua and the others. The general in charge of the Yuantu Mountain Pass requested to see him. Alliance Master, I have something to report. What is it? Yes, it's about the matter of the Freelance Martial Artist Alliance. They affected our defenses. The general at the Yuantu Mountain Pass had a strange expression on his face. Alliance Master Yen was stunned. Your Yuantu Mountain is hundreds of li away from the Baleful Wind Gap. How could the Freelance Martial Artist Alliance affect you? Bailey asked before the generals at the entrance of Yuantu Mountain could answer. Another general from Chicken Crow Mountain requested to see them. After Alliance Master Yen sent people in, the general from Chicken Crow Mountain said with a sad face, Alliance Master, you have to make a decision for us. The Freelance Martial Artist Alliance is too outrageous. We have no way to properly set up our defenses. Alliance Master Yen was stunned. They were here to complain again. Just as Alliance Master Yen was about to ask in detail, another general from Huating Mountain requested to see him. As soon as he entered, he said angrily, Alliance Master, the people from the unaffiliated Cultivator Alliance are too outrageous. If we don't deal with them, we won't be able to live a normal life. Immediately after that, Maiji Mountain, Fangdo Mountain, Baota Mountain, almost all the generals on the 10,000 miles of Gobi defense line came to complain to Alliance Master Yen. Although there were more than 10 people in the plaintiff, there was only one defendant, and that was the unaffiliated Cultivator Alliance. To be more precise, it was the Alliance Master of the Unaffiliated Cultivator Alliance, Leng Xiaojiu. Alliance Master Yen was completely confused. What did the Unaffiliated Cultivator Alliance do that was so infuriating? How did they offend all these generals? The Yuantu Mountain General who came in at the beginning said with a sad face, "Alliance Master, about 10 days ago, the people of the Unaffiliated Cultivator Alliance seem to have been injected with stimulants. Before dawn, they started to run in formation. They shouted slogans as they ran, 'What Unaffiliated Cultivator Alliance, they only specialize in killing the nightmare race.' Chief Xiaojiu, invincible in the world, there are at least 1,000 people at a time, and their voices are deafening. That's nothing. At worst, we can just cover our ears." But that Leng Xiaojiu got a pole and was carried to the back of the team. Every time she reached our pass, she would accuse us of having a problem with our defenses. At this point, the general of Yuantu Mountain had an unnatural expression on his face. Although Leng Xiaojiu's words were a little harsh, the problem she pointed out did make some sense. The general of Yuantu Mountain coughed dryly twice, then, he said, this is nothing. It's not that we can't be criticized. The main thing is that after her nonsense, my disciples also want to train with her team." Hearing this, Alliance Master Yen was a little puzzled. "Hero Zhu, let me interject. What did that Leng Xiaojiu say? She actually made your subordinates want to follow her team for training?" The face of the Yuantu Mountain General twisted. "She used nothing more than goading them. She said that my subordinates couldn't hold on at all, that their physical strength was inferior to that of the Unaffiliated Cultivator Alliance and so on. Besides, she's saying this several times a day. How can my men stand it?" The Huating Mountain General said angrily, "These are all trivial matters. The most hateful thing is that this Leng Xiaojiu is always jumping around. After she climbed to the top of the mountain, she provoked the nightmare race on the opposite side. After that, she ran away. We had no choice but to fight the furious nightmare race." When the other generals at the checkpoint heard the words of the General Huating Shan, they immediately added, lamenting how the Unaffiliated Cultivator Alliance, especially their leader, Leng Little Nine, had gone too far. Apart from the above-mentioned things, Leng Little Nine still had some matters to attend to and had no reason to bet with them. Every time, they lost miserably. Among them, the general of Fang Do Shan who was right next to the killing wind had lost the most miserably. He had lost the power to arrange the entire Fang Do Shan to Leng Xiaojiu. To put it bluntly, he was now just a single commander. Alliance Master Yen and the others were dumbstruck. Leng Xiaojiu had only been here for half a month. How did he become a bad news bag that everyone wanted to beat up? When the Peak Masters and Elders of the Chaos Origin Sect and the Killing Origin Sect heard this, they immediately felt that this Leng Xiaojiu's style of doing things was exactly the same as that bad news bag, Yun Chujiu. Could it be that this little Jiu was a bad news bag? Alliance Master Yen had no choice but to find He Xinjiu, who had angered everyone. The moment He Xinjiu entered the meeting tent, she first greeted Alliance Master Yen and the other masters. Then, she bared her little white teeth at the more than 10 past generals. "Oh my, so everyone is here. I was wondering why I didn't see you all when I went to the training today. Now that I can't see you all for a day, I miss you so much. I simply can't eat or sleep." The generals at the pass snorted coldly, thinking to themselves, "You think of them like a bad person?" Thinking of their spirit stones was more like it. Poor thing, was it easy for them to save up some spirit stones? In just a few days, they were almost halfway through being cheated by this bad thing. Alliance Master Yen coughed and said, "Alliance Master Leng, these generals at the pass have reported some things to me. For example, you led the team of the Loose Cultivator Alliance to train. Are these things true? Do you have any explanation?" Yun Chujiu nodded. "They are all right. I admit it. However, which rule did I violate? The military rules of the Alliance Army? I have read the military rules of the Alliance Army. A person like me who obeys the rules will definitely not violate the military rules. Alliance Master Yan, it seemed that, maybe, probably, what Ling Xiaojiu did not violate the military rules. However, it was also true that the establishment of the Alliance Army was rushed, and the military rules were also drafted. They did not expect that Ling Xiaojiu would take advantage of this loophole. Alliance Master Yan, besides, everything I did was to increase the alertness and combat strength of the Alliance Army. First of all, I pulled the team to strengthen their physical strength and discipline. As for the disciples at the other checkpoints, they volunteered to participate. It was already good enough that I did not charge them a membership fee. Do you still blame me? Secondly, I had seen some flaws in the defenses that I had pointed out with good intentions and had not charged them any consulting fees. You all had the nerve to criticize me. Finally, I had stood on the summit of their mountain to provoke the nightmare race. On one hand, I had caused the nightmare race to not be at peace. On the other hand, I had also wanted the Alliance Army to maintain their vigilance and their desire to fight. I had shouted until my throat had gone hoarse, and had not asked you for the money for the pills. You're talking about me? I spent so much effort to help the Alliance Army increase their physical strength and combat strength. I poured my heart and blood into making the nightmare race unable to live in peace. I spent so much effort to make the Alliance Army remain vigilant. Have I expressed my merit to you? Have I asked you for benefits? You actually came here to complain. Doesn't your conscience hurt? It's really too disappointing and sad. The generals at the checkpoint were speechless and embarrassed. How could they feel that she had done all good things and that they had become ungrateful wretches? Occasionally missing content, please report errors in time. In the meeting tent, besides Yunchuji's whimper of grievance, the rest of the people kept quiet. Some of the generals at the checkpoint even felt that it was unforgivable to come here to complain. The little girl had racked her brains for their good, yet they came here to complain. It was really too wicked. Alliance Master Yan's heart was like a dog that was bickering. Before you generals came here to complain, didn't you think about it carefully? But now, after being kissed by this Ling Xiaojiu, nothing happened. What did you want him, the Alliance Master of the Alliance Army, to say? Previously, he still looked like he wanted to interrogate them. How was he going to end things now? Jia Yuanshen, the general at the pass of Huating Mountain, snorted coldly, even if what you said is right, then what do you say if you cheated us of our money? He Xinjiu stomped her feet. Oh my! The conscience of heaven and earth. Was that cheating? Did I put a knife to your neck or beat you with a whip? I only mentioned it unintentionally, but you insisted on making a bet with me. I've already said that I won't make a bet with you. You insisted on forcing me to make a bet with you, and then you lost. Are you blaming me? Jia Yuanshen suddenly stopped moving. That's right. Every time, it seemed that this bad boy really did not take the initiative to propose a bet. Every time, he was the one who proposed the bet, and this bad boy still tried to shirk it. Then, the question was he crazy at that time? Why did he have to bet with her? Jia Yuanshen recalled the first time he made a bet a few days ago. He Xinjiu led the team to the pass of the Painted Hill. He Xinjiu used the excuse of visiting Jia Yuanshen to enter the pass of the Painting Mountain. After seeing Jia Yuanshen, He Xinjiu proposed to go to the top of the mountain to have a look. Jia Yuanshen initially rejected her verbally. He Xinjiu said faintly, General Jia, are you afraid that I will point out the flaws in your defense, so you don't dare to let me go up to have a look? Jia Yuanshen was originally a hot-tempered and arrogant person. How could he withstand Yunchuji's provocation? He immediately led He Xinjiu to the top of the mountain. TSK. General Jia, I don't mean to criticize you, but setting up a defense is an art. You're still lacking. He Xinjiu pouted and said. Jia Yuanchen immediately widened his eyes. What's wrong with my defense? If you don't understand, don't talk nonsense. He Xinjiu shook her head. Forget it. I'm just talking nonsense. Don't take it seriously. Anyway, I'll go back now. See you later. Jia Yuanchen was unwilling to give up. He blocked Yun Chujia's way and said, No, you must speak clearly today. Otherwise, I can't let you go. I was just joking. I didn't expect General Jia to be serious. It's not impossible to say it. But if I'm right, what will General Jia do? He Xinjiu forced herself to be calm. Seeing this, Jia Yuanchen thought that Yun Chujiu was spouting nonsense. He immediately snorted, Humph. I'll make a bet with you. If there's really something wrong with my defense, I'll give you 100,000 high-grade spirit stones. If you spout nonsense, you'll give me 100,000 high-grade spirit stones. Do you dare? This isn't a good bet. 100,000 spirit stones isn't a small amount. He Xinjia's eyes flickered as she said. The more He Xinjiu said this, the more Jia Yuanchen felt that Yun Chujiu was guilty. Therefore, even though Yun Chujiu rejected him several times, Jia Yuanchen still refused to let her go. Therefore, yes, he was successfully cheated of 100,000 upper-grade spiritual stones. The next day, when He Xinjiu came again, she did the same thing again. Jia Yuanchen thought of the spiritual stones he lost the day before, and he would be cheated again. Seeing that no one moved, Yun Chujiu crossed her arms and said while shaking her feet, Well, since you have nothing to say, shouldn't we talk about the various fees you owe me now? We are all old acquaintances. I will give you a discount. After hearing He Xinjia's shameless words, everyone was dumbfounded. There was no one else who could be so thick-skinned. However, after thinking for a while, the more than 10 generals of the past could not think of any words to refute her. They had really seen a ghost. The Yuantu mountain general rubbed his hands and said, Well, there are still some matters to deal with at the pass. If Alliance Master Yen has nothing else to do, this subordinate will go back now. The general of Mount Ji Ming said, I also remember that there are still some very important matters to deal with. Alliance Master Yen, if you are fine, this subordinate will also go back. Jia Yuanchen of Mount Huating said, Alliance Master Yen, this subordinate's stomach is hurting a little. I will take my leave now. Before Alliance Master Yen could express his stance, the more than 10 generals at the pass all slipped away. Alliance Master Yen, damn it, no one would do that. You guys stirred up trouble and just left like that. What about him? He Xinjiu pursed her lips and muttered, A monk can't run away from the temple if he runs away. Well, look for them again when we're training tomorrow. How dare you accuse me of being black, HMPH. The people in the meeting tent immediately lit a candle for the generals at the checkpoints. Even the head of the Fan family had been extorted 1 billion upper-grade spirit stones by this guy, and they still dared to provoke her. They were really out of their minds. Alliance Master Yen coughed and said, Alliance Master Leng, it seems that this is all a misunderstanding. Since it's a misunderstanding, it's good to talk things out. Well, you guys are quite busy at the Gale port. If there's nothing else, Alliance Master Leng can go back first. He Xinjiu narrowed her eyes, she smiled and said, Alliance Master Yen, I heard that the Alliance army is usually paid. Although our unaffiliated cultivator alliance is not a regular army, we are still sacrificing our lives to protect the immortal essence continent. You want favor one over the other, right? Alliance Master Yan's heart skipped a beat. What he was afraid of came true. He knew that this Ling Xiaojiu was not so easy to get rid of. Alliance Master Yen laughed and said, "Alliance Master Lang, you're right. However, didn't you just get 400 million upper-grade spirit stones from the Fan family's head a few days ago? Can you waive the pay?" He Xinjiu was immediately unhappy. "Alliance Master Yen, this is a one-size-fits-all deal. Those 400 million upper-grade spiritual stones are the money we use to clean up the mess of the Yellow Mud Mound garrison. How can this be the same as the pay?" "Alliance Master Yen, it's really not that I, Ling Xiaojiu, am greedy. Think about it. The Alliance army has the pay, but the people of the unaffiliated Cultivator Alliance don't. What do you want them to think? What we are most afraid of on this battlefield is demoralizing the morale. Do you think it's appropriate to lower the morale just because of a few salaries? Forget it, if the Alliance army doesn't want to give the unaffiliated Cultivator Alliance their salaries, it's not a big deal. At most, I, Ling Xiaojiu, will pay out of my own pocket. After all, we are not a regular army. Alliance Master Yen would never let Yun Chujiu pay out of her own pocket. If this were to spread out, it would definitely say that he, the Alliance Master of the Alliance Army, was biased. He could only say painfully, "Alliance Master Lang, I was just saying. The salary should still be paid. In a while, I will get someone to transfer it to you." He Xinjiu said a few polite words before she left with satisfaction. Alliance Master Lang felt sullen in his heart. Who had he offended? He was waiting in the meeting tent. Just because of the complaints from the generals at the pass, he would have to pay out the salary from Yu in the future. It was simply ridiculous. He Xinjiu received the military pay. After returning to the storm mouth, she distributed the military pay to everyone. The people of the unaffiliated Cultivator Alliance were completely in awe of their black-hearted alliance leader. They had come to help voluntarily. They did not expect to receive military pay at all. It seemed that the black-hearted alliance leader Little Nine was still reliable. In the following period of time, He Xinjiu was still happily jumping around at all the checkpoints. Because the generals at those checkpoints owed He Xinjiu money, their confidence was even more lacking. Moreover, because they had harmed Alliance Master Yen and lost his money, they were too embarrassed to complain about He Xinjiu, so they could only continue to be harmed by He Xinjiu. Of course, He Xinjiu was not just fooling around. Through these few days of fooling around, she understood the arrangement of the defense line of the entire tens of thousands of miles of Gobi Desert. Moreover, she had pointed out some flaws in the arrangement of the defense line and made people correct them. Moreover, she had lost twice in one life. Now, she had become familiar with these generals at the pass and had caught their little braids. In the future, when she was going to hold great power, these people would not dare to cause trouble. Of course, this fellow would not admit it because it was too boring. Inside the Nightmare Clan's meeting tent, the Nightmare Clan's Crown Prince was gathering his subordinates to discuss matters. Crown Prince, recently, the human race's various passes have frequently provoked us. We must think of a way to teach them a lesson. The person who spoke was the Nightmare Clan general who had fallen halfway down the mountain previously. His waist was still hurting faintly. The humans have always been timid and afraid of trouble. In the past, they only guarded the defensive line and did not allow our nightmare race to advance. Why are they acting differently this time? The Crown Prince of the Nightmare race asked with a frown. Crown Prince, we have observed that the one who seems to be provoking us at the beginning seems to be a stinky girl wearing a silver mask, a stinky girl wearing a silver mask. It's her again. The Crown Prince of the Nightmare race slammed the table angrily. He had suffered a great loss the last time. When he thought about it carefully, he realized that he had been tricked by Ling Xiaojiu. It was the first time that the Crown Prince of the Nightmare race had suffered such a great loss, especially when he had been tricked by a little girl at the 6th level of the Ling Xian realm. One could imagine the anger in his heart. The nightmare race had previously captured some humans. He had specially interrogated them, but there was no such person as Ling Xiaojiu. It seemed that Ling Xiaojiu had suddenly appeared. The crown prince of the nightmare race could not understand how a little girl at the 6th level of the Ling Xian realm had become the leader of the unaffiliated cultivator alliance. The people of the nightmare race rarely dreamed, but the crown prince of the nightmare race had been having the same dream repeatedly recently. The main characters in the dream were always him and that damn Ling Xiaojiu. There was only one content, and that was that he was beaten up by Ling Xiaojiu in different ways. Because of this, the crown prince of the nightmare race had not slept for several days. His eyes were red. He felt that there was only one way to solve the problem, and that was to kill Ling Xiaojiu. The crown prince of the Yan clan revealed a vicious look in his bloodshot eyes. Gather all the troops and launch an attack at midnight tomorrow. The target is the windbreak. If anyone can capture or kill Ling Xiaojiu alive, they will be heavily rewarded. Yes. The next day, Yun Chujiu trained the troops as usual. When this guy was jumping around at all the checkpoints, he discovered one thing, and that was that the Yan clan in each of the checkpoints did not come out to fight. He Xinjiu frowned. Every time she scolded the nightmare race that only knew how to fart, the nightmare race would jump around like they were injected with stimulants. Why was it so quiet today? Could it be that they were already immune to her provocation? The next few checkpoints were all in the same situation. He Xinjia's heart stirred. Could it be that the nightmare race was plotting something? When Yun Chujiu hopped to the pass of Huating Mountain, she voiced her doubts. Jia Yuanshan pursed his lips. Alliance leader Leng, although I have lost many bets to you in the past, you are really overthinking this time. Even if the Yan clan were to make a move, they would not move all the people in the base to the same place. If that was the case, wouldn't we be able to surround them while they were attacking? So that's not going to happen. Yun Chujiu blinked her eyes, rubbed her chin and pondered for a while, then said, General Jia, I'll go to the other side to take a look. Are you coming? Jia Yuanshan shook his head like a rattledrum. Was this Ling Xiaojiu crazy? Go to the other side to take a look. You're going to die there, right? Alliance Chief Leng, you. Are you feeling a little feverish? Although the other side is not the main force of the Yan clan, there are more than 1,000 people stationed there. If you go down there, aren't you going to die? I think there should be no one in the other camp. Even if there are people, there are only a few of them. Doesn't General Jia feel that being suppressed by the Yan clan is very sullen? Or is it that General Jia is not as bold as a little girl at the 6th level of the Ling Xian realm like me? Yun Chujiu said disdainfully. Jia Yuanshan had always been a firecracker. How could he withstand Yun Chujiu's goading? He immediately snorted and said, I don't dare. I'm just afraid that something will happen to you. When the time comes, it will be time to extort my spirit stones again. Yun Chujiu glanced at him. General Jia, you should watch your words. When did I extort your spirit stones? That was all you who lost to me. Can you have a little bit of gambling ethics? Stop wasting time. Let's go down and pick up the scraps. He Xinjiu said as she tied a rope around her waist and climbed down the opposite mountain. Jia Yuanshan gritted his teeth and had no choice but to follow her to the foot of the opposite mountain. When the two of them reached the foot of the mountain, there was still no movement from the other side of the nightmare race's base. He Xinjiu stretched her neck and cursed. Occasionally, one or two people would poke their heads out from the other side of the base, but they did not form an entire team to attack. He Xinjiu blinked her eyes and walked forward for a short distance. Jia Yuanshan's heart was in his throat. The nightmare race might have set up a trap and was waiting for them to enter. This Ling Xiaojiu was really courting death. Most importantly, it was fine if she wanted to die, but she had to drag him along. It was really despicable. Yun Chujio stretched her neck and shouted a few more words, but there was still no whole team coming out. She stopped in her tracks and said, "Let's go, we're going back." Jia Yuanchen was stunned. "You're not going forward? Didn't you say you were going to pick up scraps? If you're willing to go, then go by yourself. I'm timid, so I'll go back first." After He Xinjiu said that, she ran back. Jia Yuanchen, what did she mean by he was willing? He was obviously tricked by her, all right. Jia Yuanchen had no choice but to follow Yun Chujio back to the foot of the mountain, following the rope up to the top. "General Jia, what do you think?" He Xinjiu narrowed her eyes. Jia Yuanchen was stunned. "What do you mean, what do you think? We haven't gone far, what can we see? There are less than 100 people in the camp of the nightmare race, perhaps only a few dozen people. Their main force must have gathered at a certain pass. They might launch a fierce attack tonight," Yun Chujio said with a frown. "Alliance leader Leng, don't joke around. Didn't I tell you before? Even if the nightmare race launched an attack, it would be impossible for them to gather all their forces together. Moreover, we did not discover any signs of movement from the opposing garrison." Jia Yuanchen curled his lips and said. The corners of Yun Chujio's lips curled up. "Of course I'm not spouting nonsense. First of all, we have already reached the foot of the mountain, and we have scolded them so harshly. The Yen clan did not send anyone out either. This is very abnormal. Secondly, didn't you notice that there is something unusual about the southern side of the Yen clan's garrison?" Jia Yuanchen's face was filled with bafflement. "I didn't notice it. Isn't it just some Blatilla splendens and some shrubs?" Yun Chujio said with a smile, "Haven't you noticed that there's something different about those splendor grass? The splendor grass usually grew towards the direction of the sun, while a portion of the splendor grass near the Yen clan's encampment had fallen to the ground. It was obvious that it had been trampled on by many people. In addition, many of the branches of those shrubs had also been broken. Generally speaking, when cultivators advance, they are different from the soldiers of the secular world. If it is not a particularly urgent situation, they will go around the shrubs. Now that even the shrubs have been broken, it means that they left in a very urgent manner. It is very likely that they left last night. Our garrison troops on this side did not notice their movements because the sky was dark and they were far away." Jia Yuanchen was dumbstruck when he heard that. He looked at Yun Chujio with a blank expression. "Oh my God, how did this Leng Xiaojia's head grow?" Before Jia Yuanchen could react, Yun Chujio had already jumped away. Yun Chujio went to the Chicken Crow Mountain beside Huating Mountain again. She found that the situation at the Chicken Crow Mountain and Huating Mountain were roughly the same. This fellow went to the other checkpoints to check again, and they were all the same as the situation at Huating Mountain. She returned to the windbreak of the garrison. After cursing for a while, no one came out. However, it was obvious that there were many more garrison troops poking their heads out. Yun Chujio observed for a while at the top of the mountain. It would have been great if she could get closer to investigate. Unfortunately, the group of sand sea poisonous bees and the large red ants that she had tamed had been released back to the extreme west sand sea after they had blocked the Yen clan. Demonic insects were different from demonic beasts. Demonic beasts could stay in their spirit beast pouches for a long period of time. Demonic insects had to frequently go out to search for food, and they had to be in a place that was suitable for growing. This was also the reason why many cultivators did not like raising demonic insects. Moreover, there was a concentrated baleful wind at the windscreen, so the demonic insects had no way of sneaking into the Yen clan's base. However, He Xinjiu could basically confirm that the Yen clan's target was clearly the windscreen. This was understandable. The Nightmare Race's crown prince had suffered a great loss at her hands. He must have hated her to death. Furthermore, the windbreak was easy to attack but difficult to defend. Using this place as an opening was undoubtedly a good choice. The Nightmare Race's crown prince was clearly prepared to risk everything. Taking the risk of being surrounded by the human race, the Nightmare Race's main forces were all dispatched to the windbreak. They could either surprise the enemy and break through the human race's defenses in one fell swoop. Or they could be surrounded by the human race and suffer heavy losses. This prince of the Nightmare Race had a unique way of doing things. If he hadn't met her, Alliance Master Yen, he might have succeeded. Unfortunately, he had to meet her, Alliance Master Yen. Thinking of this, Hei Shinjo jumped into the meeting tent of the Alliance army in a flash. Alliance Master Yen felt his head ache when he saw Hei Shinjo. The army pay had been given to her, so what was this guy doing here? The moment Hei Shinjo entered the meeting tent, she said with a smile, "Alliance Master Yen, there's a great piece of good news." Alliance Master Yen was stunned. What good news? The good news that our human race has recovered the lost land. The Nightmare Race has gathered all their forces, and it's estimated that they will use the sandstorm as a breakthrough point tonight. We might as well play along and let the Nightmare Race's army in through the sandstorm. Then, we can encircle and annihilate them. At least, we can eliminate most of the main forces of the Nightmare Race. When that time comes, we can take advantage of the situation and continue our pursuit. We can definitely regain the territory occupied by the Yen clan. Hei Shinjo said with a smile. Alliance Master Yen was stunned at first, then the corners of his eyes twitched. Alliance Master Leng, if you have any requests, just say it. The joke you told is not funny at all. Alliance Master Yen, what I said is true and not a joke. When I went to check the various checkpoints today, I discovered that the Yen clan's encampment opposite, Yun Chujiu recounted what had happened. Seeing that she did not look like she was joking, Alliance Master Yen got someone to gather Mountain Master Zhua and the others over. Then, he got Yun Chujiu to recount her thoughts. When everyone heard Yun Chujiu's words, they immediately exploded. The head of the Fan family hated Yun Chujiu to death in his heart. Now that he finally had an opportunity, he naturally wouldn't let it go. He sneered and said, Alliance Master Leng, although your judgment last time was correct and you've made a great contribution, you can't be too arrogant. The Yen clan isn't a fool. How could they do such a stupid thing? Besides, the Yen clan could have mobilized their troops after nightfall. Why did they gather their troops last night? Aren't they afraid that we'll find out? Moreover, your judgment is only based on the splendor grass and bushes. This is too childish. The others also echoed, yes, Chief Leng. Your deduction is too arbitrary. The Yen clan is cunning and cunning. How could they make such a low-level mistake? You scolded them, but they didn't say anything. They just saw through your intentions, so they didn't fall for it. And those splendor grass and bushes. They probably stepped on them when they passed by, so they can't be counted. No matter how Yun Chujiu explained and proved, apart from Mountain Master Zhao of the Fire Peak, no one else agreed with Hei Xinjia's thoughts. Hei Shinjo was furious. As expected, what she said was right. They weren't afraid of a godlike enemy, but they were afraid of a pig-like opponent. Such a good opportunity to heavily injure the Nightmare Race, yet they didn't grasp it. This was truly infuriating. Just as Yun Chujiu was about to say something, the head of the Fan family coldly snorted, "Is this an excuse for your alliance to be afraid of the Nightmare Race launching an attack? Do you think we are all fools? If you are afraid of death, you should say so as soon as possible. It's not like our alliance doesn't have people." Yun Chujiu narrowed her eyes and said, "The head of the Fan family really has sharp eyes. You are right. Our alliance is afraid of death. Since the head of the Fan family is so brave, he can take over our alliance. Our freelance martial artist alliance can have some free time. Alliance Master Yen quickly tried to smooth things over. Alliance Master Leng, the head of the Fan family, doesn't mean that. Your freelance martial artist alliance is brave and good at fighting. Why would you be afraid of the Nightmare Clan? Alliance Master Yen, you think too highly of our freelance martial artist alliance. Our freelance martial artist alliance isn't a regular army to begin with. Naturally, we're not as brave as the alliance army. I was too embarrassed to mention it at first, but now that the head of the Fan family has suggested it, I will take advantage of the situation. The baleful wind gap is easy to attack but hard to defend. Our loose cultivator alliance doesn't want to defend anymore. Either give us another pass, or give us a few days off and let us rest. At first, Alliance Master Yen was still trying to persuade her, but after he had said all the good words, Yun Chujio still looked like a scoundrel. Alliance Master Yen was also furious. Alliance Master Leng, since your unaffiliated cultivator alliance is so cowardly, there's no need for you to help guard the pass. Go ahead. Yun Chujio shrugged indifferently, go ahead, go ahead. Alliance Master Yen, quickly send someone to replace us. Our unaffiliated cultivator alliance has been training too hard recently. Find a place to rest and recuperate. Alliance Master Yen was absolutely furious. He slammed the table, I will immediately send someone to replace your unaffiliated cultivator alliance. Go ahead, I won't send you off. Hearing Alliance Master Yan's words, Yun Chujio gave a perfunctory bow and then turned around to leave the meeting tent. Alliance Master Yen was so angry that he was about to explode. If it weren't for the fact that the unaffiliated cultivator alliance didn't belong to the alliance army, he would definitely have dealt with that Ling Xiaojiu properly. Going back on his words and treating such a major matter like fighting against the Nightmare Clan as a child's game was really too much. The head of the Fan family fanned the flames and said, Alliance leader, I've said before that this Ling Xiaojiu's background isn't right. Now that I look at it, he really doesn't have any sense of the big picture. Just because we didn't agree with her opinion, she's using this to blackmail us. She's really too arrogant. The others also echoed in succession. In the past, they thought that although this Ling Xiaojiu was a little greedy, he wasn't bad. They didn't expect that he would actually cause such a ruckus now. It was really disappointing. They did not know why the people of the Freelance Martial Artist Alliance chose such a ridiculous alliance leader. It was really hard to understand. After Yun Chujio returned to the Wind Gap, she said angrily to the people of the Freelance Martial Artist Alliance, the alliance said that we are not a regular army. They said that our Freelance Martial Artist Alliance is just a bunch of mobs. The moment we came, we asked them to guard the Wind Gap. This Wind Gap is easy to attack but hard to defend. They are bullying us because we are outsiders. Humph, I won't serve them anymore. Someone will come to replace us in a while. I'll bring you to drink and eat meat. Although the people from the Loose Cultivator Alliance were angry, they felt that it was a little inappropriate to act so impulsively. After all, they had come to fight against the Nightmare Clan. Leaving just like that was a little too casual. Unfortunately, no one dared to challenge He Xinjia's authority. After the people sent by the Alliance army took over the windbreak, He Xinjiu led the people from the Loose Cultivator Alliance and left the windbreak. And Linchuan and Shangguan Hao were dumbfounded. They were not from the alliance of itinerant cultivators, so where should they go now? And Linchuan eagerly went to Yun Chujia's side and asked in a low voice, Little Jiu, Chief Leng, are you really going to leave the vast desert? He Xinjiu glared at him. Who said that I'm going to leave the vast desert? And Linchuan was stunned. Then where are you going? Yuan Shi from Fangdou Shan has lost the command to me. I'll bring you to Fangdou Shan for a walk. He Xinjiu said with a smile. Leng Kuei snorted coldly. What are you trying to do? Why are you going to Fangdou Shan when you can't even keep your mouth shut? Vice Alliance leader Ling Datu, you'd better shut up. I have my own plans. Otherwise, your name will spread throughout the Alliance army. He Xinjiu knew Leng Kuei the best. As long as he could catch him, he would be obedient. Sure enough, Leng Kuei snorted and didn't say anything. While Yuan Shi was inspecting the defenses on Fangdou Shan, a subordinate rushed over. General Yuan, Alliance leader Leng from the Alliance of Non-Affiliates has brought people from the Alliance of Non-Affiliates to the foot of our mountain. She said, she wants to take over Fangdou Shan. Yuan Shi, he had indeed lost the command of Fangdou Shan to Ling Xiaojiu, but he didn't take it seriously. After all, this command was given to him by the Alliance army, so it was impossible for him to really hand it over to her. Tell him that I don't have time to see her. Yuan Shi said that she couldn't afford to offend her and could hide. The subordinate hesitated for a moment and then said, General, Alliance leader Leng said that if you don't see her, she will go to the miss of the Hunyuan sect to have a chat. Hearing that, Yuan Shi immediately ran to the foot of the mountain to pick up He Xinjiu. At the foot of Fangdou Mountain, He Xinjiu was rolling her eyes as she thought of an idea. Since Alliance Master Yan's group of old fogies could not persuade her, then she could only use her own method to solve it. If she did not evacuate the people of the Freelance Martial Alliance from the Killing Wind Gap, then there would only be death tonight. Their Freelance Martial Alliance had been pieced together in the first place and was not a match for the main force of the Nightmare Clan at all. Of course, she would not let the Alliance army that had taken their place to die either. She had to think of a way to break this deadlock. This fellow wanted to force all the generals at the pass to listen to her words, but firstly, it was not very maneuverable. Secondly, if she did that, even if they really won, those generals would probably be completely disgraced in front of Alliance Master Yan and the other big shots. Before He Xinjiu could come up with a plan, Yuan Shi ran over from the top of the mountain. Yuan 11 had heard from his subordinates that Ling Xiaojiu had brought people to take over his Fangdou mountain. He had thought that she had only brought a few people, but from the looks of it, there were thousands of people. What was Ling Xiaojiu up to? Was she going to rebel? Alliance Master Leng, what are you doing? You have brought people here. What about the storm vent? Yuan Shi asked in surprise. I've already given the windbreak to someone else to guard. I think your Fangdou Shan is pretty good, so I plan to stay in your Fangdou Shan for a few days, He Xinjiu said with a smile. Yuan Shi was dumbfounded. What did she mean by his Fangdou Shan was pretty good? Was she really planning to take over the magpie's nest? Alliance Master Leng, don't joke around. Did the Alliance order you to take over my Fangdou Shan? Pass me the document. Yuan Shi thought that Yun Chujiu came with the Alliance army document. Sigh. General Yuan, you are right. It is true that Alliance Master Yan gave me a document to take over, but my spiritual pet was mischievous and accidentally burned it. Do you think you can make an exception? Yun Chujiu said as she took out the little black bird to take the blame. Xiao Hanio rolled its eyes. Who did it offend? This is easy. I will send someone to Alliance Master Yan to verify it. Yuan 11 had already believed more than half of it. After all, he did not expect He Xinjiu to dare to tell such a big lie. Yun Chujiu looked at the sky and said, General Yuan, look at the sky. It is already dark. This trip will take a lot of time. Why don't you send someone tomorrow morning? Besides, Alliance Master Yan did not give you any other mission. You can stay in Fangdou Shan for now. I don't mind. Yuan Shi was still a little skeptical. He looked at Shang Guanhao. He trusted Shang Guanhao more, so he asked, "Young hero Shang Guan, is what Alliance Master Leng said true?" Shang Guanhao refused to answer the question in his heart, but since the question had already reached his head, he could only say, "Yes, it's true." When Yuan Shi saw that Shang Guanhao had confirmed it, there was no longer any doubt in his heart. He happily allowed He Xinjiu and the others to enter Fangdou Mountain. The people from the Freelance Martial Artist Alliance were even more impressed by their alliance master He Xinjiu. Damn it, their alliance master He Xinjiu was too good at deceiving people. How could she have tricked them into entering Fangdou Mountain just like that? But, why did she bring them into Fangdou Shan? Just to find a place to stay? He Xinjiu brought her people into Fangdou Shan and then said to Yuan 11 with a smile, "General Yuan, what I said just now was actually a lie. I don't have Alliance Master Yan's document." Yuan Shi was stunned at first, then said with a smile, "Alliance Master Leng, don't joke around. It's a big crime to impersonate Alliance Master Yan's order to take over the pass. Do you think I would believe it?" He Xinjiu rolled her eyes at Yuan Shi. "Believe it or not, if you don't, then forget it. I'll tell you the truth, I estimate that tonight, the Yen clan will use all their forces to launch a sneak attack on the Shaofeng port. Therefore, I suggested to Alliance Master Yen that all the passes of our alliance army should surround the Yen clan without anyone knowing. They will definitely be able to severely injure the Yen clan, but since Alliance Master Yen doesn't believe my words, I can only do it myself." Yuan Zai's heart sank. Was what Leng Xiaojiu said true? Did she really not have Alliance Master Yan's document? Was she lying to him? Yuan Zai's head buzzed. If what Leng Xiaojiu said was true, then he had committed a grave crime. You, get out. Quickly take your people and leave Fangdou Mountain. I, Yuan Shi, will pretend that nothing happened, Yuan Shi said through gritted teeth. Have you heard of a saying? It's easy to invite the gods but difficult to send them off. We are already here. Do you want us to get out? No way. Besides, you have already made a mistake now. You can only atone for your sins by doing meritorious deeds. Moreover, the young miss of the primordial chaos sect, shut up. What on earth do you want to do? Yuan Shi wished he could strangle the little girl in front of him to death. Yun Chujiu narrowed her eyes. I'm thinking about how to get rid of those scum from the Yen clan. This is a once-in-lifetime opportunity. It would be a pity to miss it like this. Moreover, once the Yen clan really takes down the malefic vent, the human race's defensive line will be completely defeated. After a mental struggle, Yuan 11 had no choice but to accept his fate. He frowned and asked, "Your Freelance Martial Artist Alliance only has over 3,000 people, and our Fangdou Shan only has 1,200 people. Our combined forces are probably only 1/5 of the Nightmare clans. What can we do? Why don't I send people to keep an eye on the situation at the windbreak? Once the Nightmare clan launches an attack, we'll help the windbreak resist the Nightmare clan. We should be able to wait for reinforcements to arrive." Yun Chujiu shook her head. "You are talking about the worst-case scenario. Moreover, Fangdou Shan is too close to the windbreak. If the Yen clan cannot take down the windbreak, it is very likely that they will move to Fangdou Shan. At that time, we will have to take care of one thing and lose the other. The situation will be even worse." Leng Kuei could not hold it in any longer. "This won't do. That won't do either. What do you want to do?" Yun Chujia's eyes flashed with coldness. "Kill." Everyone looked at each other. What did she mean by saying, "kill," without thinking? Yun Chujiu chimed in with her own thoughts. Everyone was instantly stunned. Could this work? Everyone tried to persuade her, but unfortunately, He Xinjiu had already made up her mind. Everyone could only nod and agree. After the sky had completely darkened, He Xinjiu led An Linchuan, Shangguan Hao, and dozens of experts from the Loose Cultivator Alliance down the rope to the side of the Fangdo Mountain near the Yan clan. An Linchuan's little heart was beating non-stop. He felt that he was already bold enough. He didn't expect that junior sister Little Nine would be so bold as to come up with such a risky idea. Little Nine, Alliance Chief, how confident are you? An Linchuan almost spilled the beans, so he had no choice but to change it to Little Nine. 100%. An Linchuan, you're strong. However, hearing Yun Chuzhou say this, An Linchuan and Shangguan Hao felt much more at ease. Everyone made their way to the Nightmare Race's encampment opposite Fangdo Mountain. Yun Chuzhou gestured to the back, and everyone understood. A portion of them went around to the other side of the encampment and deliberately made a ruckus. Very soon, a Nightmare Race encampment shouted sternly, "Who's there?" A few soldiers stationed in the Nightmare clan walked to the other side suspiciously. Who would have thought that there was still an ambush behind them? In just a short moment, a few soldiers stationed in the Nightmare clan had already died. Yun Chuzhou followed the same pattern and dealt with a few more soldiers stationed in the Nightmare clan. Only when she was certain that there were no fish that had escaped the net did Yun Chuzhou finally heave a sigh of relief. It looked like her judgment was correct. The Yan clan had indeed gathered all their main forces to the Killing Wind. Because the Yan clan had a secret communication technique, Yun Chuzhou was afraid that the news would leak out, so she did not leave the Yan clan alive to interrogate them. An Linchuan said with a face full of admiration, "Alliance Chief Little Jiu, I have to hand it to you. You are simply inhuman. You are a god." Yun Chuzhou did not pay attention to this idiot. She searched the Yan clan's garrisons, but did not find anything else. This guy rolled his eyes. The Yan clan had a secret communication technique. If there was no response, they might send people over to check. To be safe, it was better to leave some people behind. Hence, Yun Chuzhou left a dozen people behind and instructed them to wait until the battle started before leaving. After Yun Chuzhou made the arrangements, she then left the Yan clan's base with her people and returned to the foot of Fangdo Mountain. Yuan 11 and the others were waiting anxiously. When they saw that Yun Chuzhou and the others were safe and sound, they finally heaved a sigh of relief. Yun Chuzhou threw the corpse of the Nightmare clan's base onto the ground. "General Yuan, do you believe me now? There's not much time left, let's split up and move out. Now, go to the Alliance Army's tent as fast as you can and report this matter to Alliance Master Yen. I will bring my men and wipe out all the Nightmare clan's bases across the few passes. This way, after you get the document, the Alliance Army at the few passes will be able to quickly rush to the Sha Feng mouth. Oh right, bring the corpses of the Yan clan's encampment to Alliance Master Yen, lest those old fogies still don't believe it." The corners of Yuan Zai's eyes twitched. He did not need Yun Chuzhou to say anything more, he would do his best. Because this was the only way to make up for his mistakes. Otherwise, Alliance Master Yen would definitely punish him for his crimes. The sky grew darker and darker, and it was finally midnight. Inside the Yan clan's meeting tent, the Yan clan's crown prince's fingers were rhythmically tapping on the table. "Darn girl, this crown prince has waited for so many days, and it's finally time to kill you. Let's see how arrogant you will be when the time comes." "Crown Prince, just now, a subordinate reported that when we were in routine contact with a few stations, we discovered that there were a few stations that did not reply. Will there be any problems?" The commander of the Yan clan's army, Mo Wan, said with some worry. He did not approve of the Nightmare Race's Crown Prince's operation this time. It was really too risky. If it succeeded, it would naturally be very good. But if it failed, the human race would form an encirclement, and their Nightmare Race would suffer heavy losses. The Crown Prince's courage was really too great. The Nightmare Race's Crown Prince frowned. He did not think that the human race had the courage and boldness to give up the other passes to surround and annihilate them. But for the sake of safety, he said, then send a few people to take a look. After all, Fangdo Mountain is not too far from here. Very soon, it was midnight. Crown Prince, there has been no news of the people we sent previously. This is really a little strange. Why don't we postpone the operation for a while? Mo Wan advised. The Crown Prince of the Yen clan snorted coldly. The vast desert is different from other places. Our Yen clan's secret arts will sometimes fail. Perhaps we just happened to catch up this time. If the humans had sensed it, we wouldn't have been unaware of it at all. If we had missed this opportunity, it would have been even more difficult to break through the human defense line. There's no need to say any more. Give the order to set off. Mo Wan didn't dare to persuade her anymore and could only send the order. The general of the Alliance army at the mouth of the wind was Elder Lu from the Fire Peak of the Sky-Killing sect. Before he came, Mountain Master Zhao had secretly told him Yunchuji's guess. Although Elder Lu felt that Yunchuji's guess wasn't very reliable, he still felt uneasy. Therefore, he personally guarded the mountain peak at night to prevent the Nightmare Race from ambushing him. When Elder Lu was patrolling the mountain, he heard a subordinate exclaim, "Elder Lu, look." Elder Lu looked in the direction that the subordinate was pointing at. Under the night sky, there were countless black shadows moving. In the blink of an eye, they were already very close to the windbreak. Elder Liu's heart sank. The Yen clan had indeed launched a sneak attack. Moreover, the scale of the attack was so large. Clearly, it was just like what Leng Xiaojiu had said. The Nightmare clan had gathered almost all their forces to attack the windbreak. Elder Liu's heart was anxious, afraid, and a little angry. The targets of his anger were naturally Alliance Master Yen and the others. Leng Xiaojiu had said it clearly, but they didn't believe it. They were simply a bunch of old fools. But now, Leng Xiaojiu had led the unaffiliated Cultivator Alliance to retreat, and they were the unlucky ones. However, it was useless to say all that. Elder Lu hurriedly sent his fastest subordinate to deliver a letter to Alliance Master Yen while he organized his men to stop the attack of the Nightmare Race. Although he knew that they wouldn't be able to hold on for even a quarter of an hour. After all, the windbreak was easy to attack but hard to defend. Moreover, their numbers were insignificant compared to the Nightmare Race's army, but for the sake of the Immortal Essence continent, they still had to go all out. As expected, the Nightmare Race was like a hot knife through butter. The troops guarding the windstorm vent led by Elder Lu quickly lost their ability to resist. A moment later, the Nightmare Beasts and the Nightmare Race's army had already climbed halfway up the windstorm vent. The Nightmare Race's Crown Prince stood behind them, a trace of doubt flashed across his face. During the day, the windstorm vent was still guarded by Leng Xiaojiu's loose Cultivator Alliance. Why was there a change now? However, he thought about it and decided that it didn't matter. Even if that damned Leng Xiaojiu wasn't at the windstorm vent, he would be able to capture her sooner or later after the human defense line was broken through. The Crown Prince of the Nightmare Race was quite proud. The Nightmare Race had been hiding in the far west for so many years. His father had always been cautious. If it weren't for his insistence, the Nightmare Race would still be curled up in the far west. Why? They were both born with the spirit of all living things. How could the human race occupy all the resources of the Immortal Essence continent? Did the nightmare race have to hide in the far west like a rat in the dark? It was unfair. The strong preyed on the weak. This was the law of all living things. The nightmare race had to rely on their fists to take back everything that belonged to them. When the nightmare race crown prince thought of this, the light in his eyes grew even brighter. He waved his hand. Strengthen our offensive. We will attack the windbreak within 15 minutes. Yes. The nightmare race's offensive became increasingly fierce. Elder Lu could not hold on any longer. The logs and rolling stones that had been prepared at the top of the mountain had already been used up. Their spiritual energy attacks did not cause any substantial damage to the enormous nightmare race army. The windbreak was in danger. At this moment, chaos suddenly broke out behind the nightmare race army. Accompanied by the screams of the nightmare race, the unified shouts were especially pleasing to the ears. The Alliance of Itinerant Cultivators specializes in killing the nightmare race. Little Ninth Alliance leader, invincible in the world. Elder Liu's heart shook. Leng Xiaojiu. Didn't she run away with the Alliance of Itinerant Cultivators? How could she suddenly appear behind the nightmare race army? Wasn't this the same as sending herself to her death? The nightmare race's crown prince was stunned at first, then he stood on top of a gigantic nightmare beast and looked behind him. Under the night sky, he saw a woman dressed in red standing in front of a team with a smile on her face. Her silver mask reflected a cold light. The crown prince's heart felt as if it had been pricked by something. For a moment, his heart was beating like a drum. He attributed this to the excitement of meeting his enemy. Finally, he could kill this Leng Xiaojiu. As long as he killed her, he would be able to get rid of the Nightmare Lord's worries. This Leng Xiaojiu actually took the initiative to send herself to her death. He was really stupid. Hey! The farting crown prince, come over here. I have something to say to you. He Xinjiu stood on a small mound and waved at the Nightmare Lord's crown prince. The farting crown prince. The Nightmare Lord's crown prince gritted his teeth in anger. He angrily commanded his Nightmare Lord to walk to the end of the team. Of course, the Nightmare Lord's attack on the windbreaker had not stopped. This Leng Xiaojiu was just a piece of cake. He would be dealt with very quickly. The crown prince of the nightmare race arrived in front of Yun Chujiu and snorted coldly. Leng Xiaojiu, you sure have guts. You actually brought your men and ran to the rear of our nightmare race's army. Aren't you afraid of death? I'm not stupid. Of course I'm afraid of death. A person only has one life, so of course I have to cherish it. That's why I've always cherished my life, He Xinjiu said with a smile. The crown prince of the nightmare race snorted coldly. Humph. Since you're afraid of death, why did you run to the back of our nightmare race's army? Sigh. By the way, what's your name? I can't keep calling you the arrogant crown prince, can I? The crown prince of the nightmare race was stunned. Although he had a name, it seemed that after he was born, his name was only used very rarely. For example, during sacrificial ceremonies or various ceremonies, so much so that he almost forgot his own name. The crown prince of the nightmare race paused for a moment, but still said, AOG. AOG. TSK, this name is too difficult to pronounce. Look at how easy it is to remember my name. Little Joe, I can't forget it even if I want to. Also, my deputy chief's name is also very good. Leng Datu, TSK, how down to earth. Whether it was the people from the unaffiliated Cultivator Alliance or the Nightmare Race's army, the corners of everyone's mouths twitched. This Leng Little Joe's aesthetic sense was really extraordinary. A trace of stiffness flashed across the face of the Nightmare Race's crown prince, and then he said coldly, cut the crap. If you have nothing to say, then let's start the war. The Nightmare Race members behind the Nightmare Race Crown Prince, are you not thinking clearly? This Ling Xiaojiu is a human. Why are you wasting your breath on her? Just quickly order them to kill her. It's like this. That AOG, we didn't get to know each other last time. I think you're quite pleasing to the eye, so I'm here to inform you. You might not know this, but we humans have already seen through your schemes, so the army will arrive soon. At that time, your nightmare race will be surrounded and annihilated by us. On account of the fact that we have known each other, I will let you live. Take your men and leave immediately. Otherwise, when the army arrives, you will be dead. Yun Chuzhou said in a tone that said I'm doing this for your own good. The nightmare race army was instantly in an uproar. What? The humans had already known about their plan? How was this possible? Aoj's heart tightened. However, his eyes flickered a few times before he laughed coldly. Ling Xiaojiu, you are really cunning. Do you think that you can scare me away by making up such a lie? You are really too naive. If you humans know our plan, why don't you surround us now? You should know that now is the best time to attack from the inside and the outside. It just so happens that you are trying to surround us, so you are just scaring us. Io, why don't you listen to my advice? Alright, since you don't believe me, I have no choice. Then, let's start the battle. Do you want to fight alone or in a group? Hei Xinjiu crossed her shoulders and pouted. Aog pointed at Yun Chuzhou. Let's fight alone. Today, I'll send you to hell. I'm sorry. If you want to fight one-on-one, find someone else. I'm afraid of death. After Hei Xinjiu said that, she slithered into the team of the Freelance Martial Artist Alliance. AOG, the Freelance Martial Artist Alliance, the Nightmare Race Army, it was the first time AOG had encountered such a rogue enemy. He gritted his teeth in anger. Go. Kill them all. Leave no one alive. The Nightmare Race Army thought to themselves that they should have done this a long time ago. Their crown prince seemed to have lost his mind. He had been flirting with that Ling Xiaojiu for almost 15 minutes. This was a battlefield. A tiny bit of time could decide the outcome of the battle. Before the Nightmare Race Army could charge forward, they heard Hei Xinjiu say in a clear voice, "My minions, the wind is strong, pull it." Then, the Nightmare Race Army was stunned to see that the people of the Loose Cultivator Alliance and their chief, Hei Xinjiu, had run away. Aog immediately recalled what had made him gnash his teeth the last time. This Ling Xiaojiu was full of evil. Could it be that he had set up an ambush somewhere? Thus, Aog gritted his teeth. Ignore them and continue to attack the storm vent. Your Highness, the garrison at the storm vent has suddenly increased by quite a number of people, but it shouldn't exceed 5,000 people, MO1 reported. Aog's heart sank. Was it really like what Ling Xiaojiu had said, that the human race was preparing to surround and annihilate them? No, definitely not. That Ling Xiaojiu must be spouting nonsense and stalling for time. If the human race had been prepared, why would they wait until now? Step up the offensive. We must take down the windbreaker at all costs. Yes. Just as Aog finished his instructions, Hei Xinjiu ran back with the alliance of itinerant cultivators. Hey, Aog, I'm not lying to you. The human army will be here soon. You'd better run with your men, or you'll be dead for sure. You look like a dog. It would be a pity if you really died. You haven't married yet, have you? If you die, won't there be no descendants? Aya, it's very pitiful just thinking about it, Aog gritted his teeth in anger. However, as soon as he led his men forward, Hei Xinjiu used the same trick and ran away again. Aog was in a dilemma. Let's go after her. He was afraid that he would be ambushed by He Xinjiu. Let's not go after her. This guy was too infuriating. After struggling for a few times, many allied troops suddenly appeared from the south and north. The number of people on the windscreen also increased abruptly and rushed down. Aojis' head buzzed. Oh no! The humans actually knew about his plan. At this moment, He Xinjiu returned once again, giggling happily. Hey! AOG, didn't I tell you just now? The allied troops are about to surround and annihilate you, but you refuse to listen. There's really no other way. Of course, the reason why I flirted with you just now was to stall for time. Otherwise, our army wouldn't be able to make it here in time. Don't you think you're stupid? Ha ha ha. Aojis' eyes were as red as blood as he said word by word, Ling Xiaojiu, I won't forgive you. Just you wait. Io, who doesn't know how to talk big? I advise you to save your strength. You're going to die soon. How pitiful. He Xinjia's smile was very bright. Retreat. Although AOG wished he could cut Yun Chujiu into 1,000 pieces, the most important thing now was to break out of the encirclement quickly. Otherwise, once the human race surrounded them, the nightmare race would definitely suffer heavy losses. Yun Chujiu naturally would not let him escape so easily. She commanded the Loose Cultivator Alliance to go forward and stop the nightmare race army. This fellow stood at the back and stretched her neck to command. She was very confident. As a waste of the 6th level of the Ling Xian realm, it was better for her to stand at the back and command. After all, everyone had higher spiritual power than her. Soon, the coalition army joined the battle, and both sides fell into a chaotic battle. Aojis' regret could be imagined. Firstly, he regretted that he had not contacted the garrison troops at the other checkpoints and should not have launched an attack rashly. Secondly, he should not have said so much nonsense to that Ling Xiaojiu just now. If it were not for the fact that he had delayed her for a long time, they might have already taken over the storm vent by now. The more AOG thought about it, the more he hated Yun Chujiu to the bone. His malicious gaze was fixed on He Xinjiu, who was standing on the mound, stretching her neck and shouting. If it were not for this Ling Xiaojiu, he could have taken over the yellow mud mound last time because of her. Yun Chujiu stood on the mound and felt a cold gaze. She fixed her eyes on it and bared her little white teeth. She liked the way she looked at Yun Chujiu and could not get rid of her. It was fucking awesome. AOG saw Yun Chujiu's fearless look and felt even more hatred in his heart. He bit his index finger and formed a seal with his hands. Mo Luan, who was beside AOG, saw this and exclaimed, Your Highness. You stop. This is a forbidden spell of the Yen clan. If you use it, it will shorten your lifespan. Aojis' personality was aloof and prideful. He would not listen to his dissuasion and kept waving his hands. He Xinjiu saw Aojis' actions from afar. Although she did not know what secret technique AOG was using, she did not stop him from causing trouble. Who is that? Quick, stop that fart, Crown Prince. All of you attack together. Don't let him succeed. Some people from the Loose Cultivator Alliance and the Allied Army heard Yun Chujiu's shout and wanted to stop AOG. However, AOG was surrounded by a large number of Nightmare Race members. They had no way of getting close to him. A moment later, Aojis' eyes turned bright red like blood, and his long black hair instantly turned silver. His entire person was indescribably demonic. Yun Chujiu's heart jumped, and her scalp went slightly numb. This was a sign of danger. However, she felt that AOG was thousands of feet away from her, so he should not be able to do anything to her. Thus, she only increased her vigilance and did not retreat. At this moment, Aojis figure turned into a phantom like a ghost. In the blink of an eye, he appeared behind Yun Chujio and knocked her out with a hand knife. Before Hei Shinjo fainted, she only had time to think of one sentence. "Fuck, this is too much. Stop, or I'll kill Ling Xiaojio." Aog said darkly while grabbing Yun Chujio's neck. The people on the battlefield suddenly stopped moving. The people of the unaffiliated Cultivator Alliance were stunned when they saw their black-hearted alliance master fall into Aojis' hands. They were quite conflicted. Logically speaking, they were all forced by Yun Chujio, but after spending time together, they felt that it was not bad to follow this black-hearted alliance master. And a novel. After a moment of hesitation, most of the people of the unaffiliated Cultivator Alliance shouted, "Let our Alliance Master go." Alliance Master Yen had also arrived at this moment. Seeing the situation, he quickly said, "Let Ling Xiaojio go. We have something to discuss." Ask your people to make way and let our Yen clan's people pass. Otherwise, you'll have to wait to collect Ling Xiaojie's corpse. Aog said coldly. Alliance Master Yen hesitated. This was a great opportunity to annihilate the Yen clan. If they let the tiger return to the mountain, they would have to ascend to the heavens if they wanted to severely wound the Yen clan. However, putting aside the fact that Ling Xiaojio was the one who came up with this plan, just her identity as the alliance master of the unaffiliated Cultivator Alliance could not be ignored by him. What should he do? The head of the Fan family rolled his eyes, stepped forward and said, "Alliance leader, there is no need to care about trivialities in the face of righteousness. Sacrificing Ling Xiaojio alone can save the entire Immortal Essence continent. Her death is worthy of the name." Bullshit. Junior Sister Xiaojio has worked so hard for the Immortal Essence continent, yet you still want to sacrifice her. Have you fed your conscience to the dogs? Are you holding a grudge against Junior Sister Xiaojio because your son and grandson have defected? You old fart. And Lin Chuan was so angry that he stomped his feet and cursed. He had also forgotten to cover up Yun Chujio's identity. However, everyone didn't have the time to think about it. After all, Ling Xiaojio was Xiaojio. The Fan family's patriarch's old face turned red from An Linchuan's scolding. He was so angry that he was trembling. How dare you? Even your father can't talk to me like that. I'm doing this for the people of the Immortal Yuan continent. I have a clear conscience. Mountain Master Zhua quickly reprimanded An Linchuan, telling him not to act rashly. An Linchuan was so anxious that he was about to cry. Mountain Master Zhua, Ling Xiaojio is Junior Sister Xiaojio. Please save her. What? Ling Xiaojio is Yun Chujio? Mountain Master Zhua and the others said in surprise. It's true. Junior Sister Xiaojio could have stayed safely in the Chaos Origin sect. Why did she risk her life to come here? Wasn't it because of the Immortal Yuan continent? Wasn't it because of revenge for her fellow disciples of the Primordial Chaos sect and the Killing Yuan sect? Now that she's been captured, you can't just leave her to die. An Linchuan said with a sobbing tone. He understood in his heart that the reason why Yun Chujio took the risk to come here was not only because of the above reasons, but also because little ninth junior sister was worried about his and Shengguan Hao's safety. Otherwise, she wouldn't have specially transferred them to her side. Although the people of the Primordial Chaos sect and the Murderous Origins sect were a little surprised, they were not too surprised. After all, this Ling Xiaojie's style of doing things was too similar to Yun Chujio's bad news bag. The Primordial Chaos sect and the Murderous Origins sect occupied more than half of the Allied forces. Immediately, everyone's stance became clear. Yun Chujio must be saved. People's hearts were biased. Compared to an unfamiliar Ling Xiaojiu and a disciple of their own sect, the status of a disciple was naturally higher, even if that disciple was a bad news bag. The Fan family head was so angry that his old face was twisted. So it was that troublemaker Yun Chuzhou. No wonder she had been targeting the Fan family. It was really detestable. However, even though he wished that Yun Chuzhou would be killed by AOG, he did not dare to risk offending the Primordial Chaos sect and the Murderous sect, so he could only remain silent. Alliance Master Yen had a good impression of Yun Chuzhou. Now that the Primordial Chaos sect and the Murderous sect had made their stance clear, he took the opportunity to say to AOG, "I can let you go, but we have to ensure Yun Chuzhou's safety." AOG had heard the conversation of the human race clearly. So this stinky girl was Yun Chuzhou? No wonder he was fooled. AOG sneered, "Now the initiative is in my hands. Cut the crap. If you don't want her to die, quickly move aside." Alliance Master Yen gritted his teeth. Just as he was about to let everyone move aside, he heard AOG groan. Then, the little girl who had fainted entered a huge bastard shell. Everyone was shocked by this sudden change. Ling Xiaojiu, no, didn't Yun Chuzhou just pass out? How did she suddenly break free from AOJI's control? But, what the hell was the big bastard on the ground? AOG was the first to react. The first thing he did was to give the bastard a palm strike. However, even though his spiritual power had increased greatly after he used the Yen clan's forbidden technique, this palm strike did not cause any damage to Wang Bachi. Then, He Xinjia's arrogant voice came from inside Wang Bachi. "You fart prince, how dare you hold me hostage? Pooey. Not a single one of you Yen clan can escape today. What are you all standing there for? Kill them all." AOG kicked the turtle shell in anger. The turtle shell was fine, but he took a deep breath in pain. What the hell was this thing? Why was it so hard? AOG pulled out his sword and slashed at the turtle shell again, but there was still no damage to the turtle shell. When AOG was about to stab again, the humans had already pounced on him, so he had no choice but to command the Yen clan to fight. He Xinjiu hid in the turtle shell. She was glad that the Black Pearl had woken her up at the critical moment. Otherwise, if she had fallen into the hands of the farting crown prince, she would have died a horrible death. She did not think that AOG would let her go if the humans made way. Perhaps he would kill her before he left. The place where this fellow was now was surrounded by the Yen clan's people and the Yen beasts. She did not dare to leave the turtle shell. She could only open a crack in the turtle shell and poke it secretly, trying to escape from the Yen clan's encirclement. AOG turned around and saw that the big turtle shell was already 3 meters away. He slapped the shell in anger. He Xinjiu immediately became obedient and didn't dare to move. AOG was so angry. He pointed at his subordinates and said, "Dig for me. I don't believe that the soil under the turtle shell can't be moved." The people of the Yen clan hated He Xinjiu to death. They immediately began to dig around the big turtle shell. He Xinjiu pursed her lips. These people were really naive. Did they think that the turtle shell was only half? This was not an ordinary turtle shell. It could also be sealed underneath. What a bunch of idiots. As expected, after digging for a long time, the people of the Yen clan realized that the bottom of the turtle shell was sealed. They were still unable to get Yun Chuzhou out. AOG gritted his teeth. "Carry the turtle shell for me. I don't believe that we can't get this brat out." Therefore, the more than 20 people of the Yen clan carried the turtle shell. He Xinjia's heart sank. This was going to be difficult. There were tens of thousands of people of the Yen clan around her. She would definitely die if she went out. If she were to enter the Supreme Void Mirror, everyone would know that she had a divine weapon on her. Unless she had no other choice, she would have to wait and see. Aog was even more anxious. Although he had used the Nightmare Race's forbidden spell, as time passed, his power gradually declined. The hostage in his hands was almost the same as if he did not have one. The human race was gathering more and more. If this continued, the Nightmare Race would definitely lose. Right at this moment, the roar of a nightmare beast could be heard from afar. Aog looked up and saw Mo Wan's father, Mo Shifan, the #1 warrior of the Nightmare Race, sitting on top of a huge nightmare beast. Aog's heart warmed up. His father must have been afraid that something might happen to him, so he had sent King Mo to receive him. The Nightmare Race was instantly overjoyed, but Alliance Master Yen and the others felt their hearts tighten. Not only was the Nightmare Race's army coming in large numbers, but there were also a large number of nightmare beasts. If they were to fight head-on, the consequences would be unimaginable. Alliance Master Yen gritted his teeth, retreat. Lin Chuan immediately became anxious. Retreat? But junior sister Little Nine is still in their hands. She's still inside that turtle shell. Alliance Master Yen roared, don't I want to save her? But how can we save the numerous Nightmare Race armies? If we don't retreat, all of you will die. The human defense line will also collapse. Lin Chuan's eyes were red, fine. Fine. If you don't save me, I'll save you. Shang Wanhao's eyes were also red, I'll go with you. Leng Kuei said coldly, and me. Alliance Master Yen gritted his teeth in anger, Mountain Master Zhua, Elder Jing, Mountain Master Zhao, control the three of them and retreat. Lin Chuan and the other two wanted to resist, but the elders of the Killing Origin sect and the Chaos Origin sect rushed forward and controlled the three of them as if they were little chicks. Before Moxfen arrived, the human race retreated to the windbreak. The miserable Hei Shinjo hid in the turtle shell and was carried by more than 20 people. She could not run away even if she wanted to. This fellow comforted himself. It was fine. At most, she could hide in the Taishu mirror when they were on the road. After Moxfen rushed to Aogis side, he got off the nightmare beast and bowed. Your Highness, I have come to save you under the orders of King Yen. Please forgive me for being late, Pandien 0 Vel. Calm Aog hurriedly helped Moxfen up. It's all thanks to Lord Moxfen this time. This defeat is all due to me acting on my own accord. I'm ashamed. Moxfen did not dare to agree. He only politely helped Aog to excuse himself a few times before discussing the next step. Your Highness, in a short period of time, it will be very difficult to determine the victor between us and the human race. Why don't we still have the garrison troops stationed at the various passes and then we will have a long-term plan, Moxfen said. Aog nodded. It was obvious that this battle had smoothed out a lot of his arrogance. He arranged for the Nightmare Race's army to return to the base camp. Aog and Mo Xifan's troops were temporarily stationed at the Sandstorm Mouth base camp. After a flurry of activity, Aog thought of Hei Shinjo. He ordered his men to carry the big turtle shell into the meeting tent. He sneered and said, Ling Xiaojiu, no, Yun Chujiu, I didn't expect that you would fall into my hands today. You have repeatedly ruined the good things of our Nightmare Race. I will definitely tear you into pieces today. Hei Shinjo wanted to cry, but no tears came out. She thought that she could hide in the Supreme Void Mirror at any time, but for some reason, the Supreme Void Mirror seemed to be dead without any reaction. According to Mao Mao Chiu, the Supreme Void Mirror might be about to level up, so it went into hibernation. Hibernation your ass. If she didn't go into hibernation now, wouldn't it kill her if she went into hibernation now? If she had gone into hibernation, she would have said so earlier. If she had known that the grand illusionary mirror could not be used, she would have rushed out of the battlefield no matter what. There might have been a chance of survival. But now, she had entered the freaking Nightmare Clan's lair. It was as difficult as ascending to the heavens to escape. Heavens! The pretty boy had even entered the mystic realm. Now, she could only rely on herself. However, this fellow would always lose without losing. After hearing Aoj's words, she curled her lips and said, "Tsk. What's the big deal? Isn't it just death? If you have the ability, then kill me. Frowning is not considered a hero." Aog snorted coldly, "Men, put this turtle shell on the fire and roast it for me. Roast it for 49 days. I don't believe that it can't be roasted through." "Io, your highness, don't. Although I'm not afraid of death, it's better to stay alive than to die. Can we negotiate and let me go?" Hei Shinjo comforted herself. Anyway, she was a little girl, a hero or something. Get lost. Aog had obviously underestimated Hei Xinjia's thick skin. He remained silent for a long while. A certain Zhou's eyes darted around inside the bastard's shell. The best thing to do now was to stall. As long as she could stall Aog first, she would definitely be able to find a chance to escape. No matter how bad it was, when the gigolo came out of the mystic realm, he could also come and save her. When the gigolo thought of debeaming, he could not help but shiver. Before the gigolo left, he had repeatedly warned her not to get involved in the matters of the Yen clan, but she had sneaked over. By then, the gigolo might not even be able to deal with her. Aog finally came back to his senses and sneered. "Yun Chujo, I did not expect that you humans have such thick skin. Stop dreaming. You have repeatedly ruined the matters of our Yen clan. Do you want me to let you go?" "No way. Guards, put her on me and burn her." Aog wanted to cut Yun Chujo into 1,000 pieces. If it weren't for her, the Yen clan would have broken through the humans' defense line. If it weren't for her, he wouldn't have used the forbidden spell of the Yen clan to increase his spiritual power at the cost of burning his life force. As soon as Aog gave the order, one of his men immediately hung up Yun Chujia's body and lit a raging fire below. Hei Shinjo curled her lips. Idiot! Did he really think that he could burn her to death? She had the fire-repelling pearl. Not to mention the ordinary fire, even the 10,000-year-old fire marrow would not be able to burn her to death. The guy rolled his eyes. This was a good way to stall for time. Therefore, the guy began to act. "Oh my, Aog, you black-hearted man. How could you deal with your benefactor in such a vicious way? I sent you a letter in advance to tell you to run away, but you didn't. Are you blaming me? You roasted me to death. Aog, let me tell you, I won't forgive you even if I turn into a grilled fish fillet. To think that the proud son of heaven of my generation, Yun Chujo, would turn into a grilled fish fillet in the end. This is really unfair." The nightmare soldiers who were on guard around the bonfire looked at each other. This little human girl was about to be roasted to death, yet she could still curse so loudly. What a weirdo. As Hei Xinjia's voice was too loud, Aog walked out from the tent. He snorted coldly. "Yun Chujo, if you don't want to be roasted by the fire, then come out of the turtle shell obediently. Maybe this crown prince will spare your life." Yun Chujo thought to herself, "Pooey. What a liar. She would only go out if she had water in her head. If she went out, there would only be death." Aog saw that Yun Chujo did not say anything, and he shouted angrily out of embarrassment, "Give me more firewood and continue to roast." Hence, Hei Shinjo called out again. What was too hot? What was going to be dead in a while? Anyway, the entire Yen clan's base could hear this fellow's miserable screams. The Yen clan people hated this bad news bag to death. Those who did not have a duty to guard the base all ran over to watch the show. They even threw firewood onto the fire spontaneously. After a few days, the bushes next to the base of the Yen clan had been used to roast Yunchujo. It was a pity that Hei Shinjo still roared from time to time. Hey, those idiots who are burning the fire, don't waste the firewood. Put some meat of the demon beasts on the rack next to me. Remember to put some salt and honey on it. It's so fragrant, or bury some spiritual potatoes or something underneath. The taste is also very good and a novel. It's not that I want to criticize you, but you nightmare clansmen really don't have any interest in life. Moreover, your brains aren't enough. It's shameful to waste them. Why don't you hurry up and practice? The soldiers of the Yen clan had a confused look on their faces. Was this Yunchujo sick? She herself was about to be roasted into dried meat, yet she still had the leisure to command them to roast meat and roast spirit potatoes. However, what she said seemed to make some sense. It was also a waste to burn the firewood like this. Why not get some roasted meat or something, killing two birds with one stone? It just so happened that AOG and the others had gone to another station to inspect. Thus, some of the nightmare race soldiers got some demonic beast meat and placed it on the fire to roast. As the fragrance wafted out, more nightmare race soldiers gathered around. Hey, how boring is it for you to just eat? Sing a few lines. You nightmare race people have been curled up in the far west all this time. Don't tell me you don't even know how to sing. Hei Shinjo made a tiny crack on the turtle shell. She narrowed her eyes and looked at the nightmare clansmen around her. At first, no one paid attention to her. Later, this fellow's words became more and more unpleasant. His main thought was nothing more than ridiculing the nightmare clansmen for being tone-deaf and singing out of tune. One of the nightmare clansmen couldn't take it anymore. He opened his mouth and started singing. Hei Shinjo touched her chin. He sang quite well. However, the lyrics, cough, cough, this fellow didn't understand a single line. Therefore, after the other person finished singing, this guy clapped a few times. It sounded pretty good, but why can't I understand a single word of this lyrics? Did you just randomly sing it? Humph. What do you know? This is the ancient language of our nightmare race. Of course you don't understand, ignorant human. The nightmare race soldier finally found a chance to mock Yunchujo, so he naturally spared no effort. Hei Shinjo pursed her lips and opened her mouth to speak a string of English. Do you understand? The nightmare race soldier shook his head. Hei Shinjo spoke another string of French. Do you understand? The nightmare race soldier shook his head. Hei Shinjo spoke another string of Italian. Do you understand? The nightmare race soldier shook his head. TSK. So, who among us is ignorant? Besides, I'm a person who's about to die. Is it really alright for you to seek revenge for the smallest grievance? Our two armies are fighting for their own masters, and we're just on different sides. Is there a need for you to hate me so much? I'm just a weak little girl, and you're roasting me on top of me, yet you're still using words to attack me. Doesn't your conscience hurt? Seeing that I'm about to die, can we put away our hostility? A death that makes me happy. Hei Shinjo said with a sobbing voice. The nightmare race soldiers fell silent for a moment. There was only the crackling sound of firewood being roasted by the fire. Hei Shinjo continued, there is no personal grudge between us. We are just the victims of the competition between the two races for benefits. Isn't it good to live a quiet life? Isn't it good to cultivate properly? Your nightmare race and our human race have always been on the same path and never interfered with each other. Why do you have to fight endlessly? Sigh, do you think that I am willing to go against your nightmare race? I'm still a flower bud. I haven't married and had children yet. I still have a lot of beautiful lives to enjoy. What about you? Many of you haven't married yet, right? Many of your family and friends have died in this battle, right? Why? Actually, we're all the same pitiful people. Why should pitiful people make things difficult for pitiful people? Many nightmare race soldiers revealed sorrowful expressions. No matter what war it was, the ones who suffered in the end were the soldiers at the bottom. Their family and friends had all become the victims of this war. Alright, don't be sad anymore. All of us here are pitiful people who share the same fate. Let's put aside our grudges for the time being and eat the roasted meat happily. While the nightmare race soldiers were still in a daze, they saw Hei Shinjo crack open the turtle shell and hook a piece of roasted meat. Let me tell all of you that your barbecue skills are really terrible. At least cut a few holes to let the meat taste good. Now, it's so salty on the surface, but there's no taste inside. Hei Shinjo ate as she complained. The nightmare race soldier, did I let you eat it? Did I let you eat it? Did I let you eat it? Fuck, if you have the ability, don't eat it. Even beggars find it smelly. When the crowd saw the evil hook sticking out from the turtle shell again, they felt as if they had just woken up from a dream. They rushed up and scraped away the roasted meat. What a joke. This was roasted by them. If they didn't eat it now, that human bad news bag would steal it. After the crowd finished eating the roasted meat, Hei Shinjo reminded them considerately, remember to wipe your mouth after you finish eating. Don't let that black-hearted crown prince catch you. Everyone, their crown prince was not black-hearted. The black-hearted one was a bad bag. However, everyone still cleaned up the traces. After all, it was better to avoid trouble. When Aog returned from his inspection, he smelled the aroma of roasted meat in the camp. He was puzzled. Could it be that Yunchujo had been roasted? Did that Yunchujo scream today? Was she roasted to death? Aog asked a few soldiers on duty. The soldiers thought to themselves, not only did that troublemaker not die, she even stole their roasted meat to eat. Naturally, they did not dare to tell the truth. They only replied, reporting to your highness, Yunchujo is not dead. Just now, she even screamed. Aog frowned. If she was not dead, how could she have the smell of roasted meat? It was probably the smell of the turtle shell being burnt. Since the turtle shell was already burning, Yunchujo inside would probably not be able to hold on much longer. When that time came, she would definitely suffer a fate worse than death. That night, Aog received a secret letter from the King of Nightmares. He had no choice but to leave the base overnight and rush to the base of the Yen clan, the land of the Far West. Mo Shifan also followed Aog back to the land of the Far West. Before Aog left, he had specially instructed Mo Wan to keep an eye on Yunchujo. Once she came out of the turtle shell, he would tie her up and wait for him to come back for interrogation. Mo Wan knew that Yunchujo was scheming and had specially arranged for 100 nightmare race soldiers to guard the bonfire to prevent Yunchujo from escaping. As Mo Wan often had to patrol the various garrisons, Hei Shinjo often had the opportunity to organize barbecues. There was nothing that could not be solved by eating and drinking. If one meal did not work, then 2 meals would work. If 2 meals did not work, then 3 meals would work. The nightmare race soldiers did not have much spare time either. Their days were very boring, even though they knew that it was not very good to be mixed up with this bad news bag of the human race. However, when they thought about it, this bad news bag did not dare to come out of the turtle shell anyway. What kind of risk could there be? Thus, the crowd often took advantage of Mo1's absence to gather around the fire and barbecue. Occasionally, there would be people singing a few lines. However, very quickly, the crowd was attracted by a certain Joe's vivid story. Yes, it was the kind of story that would be a long serial. Therefore, the nightmare race soldiers wanted to listen to the next paragraph after listening to one paragraph. It was simply torturous to the point that they could not fall asleep. As for the story that a certain Joe was telling, it just so happened that the main character in it was also being roasted with fire. Yes, Monkey-san. I'm telling you, Monkey-san has refined the fiery eyes in the Grand Supreme Lao Jun's pill refining furnace. If you roast me like this, I might be able to reap a blessing in disguise. Therefore, you should move the firewood to the side. If I become stronger, won't you suffer? Hey Shinjo said with a smile, you're tuning into the Han Lee's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.